Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's 6 minutes past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7, Tuesday, 27th day of June. Man, oh man, oh man. And it's going to get hot. I mean, I have to keep an eye on the weather temperature right now because what is today? It's not today's the bad day. It's tomorrow, I think, isn't it?
Is it tomorrow or is it Thursday?
Well,
sure
let's just
Thursday.
Why don't we just look and find out instead of me just going off half-cocked? Let's see. I've got today is Tuesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday, 87. Thursday, 95. Friday, 99. Ugh. And then Saturday, 97.
So that 3-day stretch. Whew.
Yeah, Sunday, 90. But you will have a chance of rain Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, through the weekend. But I think that's what you call your ever unexpected, but often expected. It sometimes is not predictable. It's the convective thunderstorm.
Yeah. Well,
Pops
maybe
up
that
out
will
of
help
nowhere.
keep the temperatures from getting to those predicted highs.
Yeah, and
We have a
then
little shower.
then we'll just have humidity at 90%. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. It's summer. We'll be complaining about the cold.
That's right.
Soon enough. So
Can't wait.
that's the way. Yeah. Okay. Hey, listen. Let's listen a little bit to. Here is yesterday in the White House briefing room. Karine Jean-Pierre. She's finally the White House press corps. Somebody's awakened them from their slumber. And they're starting to ask questions about some of the stuff that has been coming out with regard to Hunter Biden.
No, are you going to answer the question?
I appreciate the question. I believe my colleague at the White House Counsel has answered this question already. I just answered the question.
No, you didn't.
Yes or no, was the president involved in the
I just
shakedown
an-
attempt?
Stephen,
Yes or no?
Stephen, I just answered the question. It's not up to you how I answer the question. I just answered the question. You just asked me, does my statement change? I just told you nothing has changed. That's answering the question.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of people in there, and what is the question? Well, the question is about this shakedown call. You got Hunter Biden, the son of the president, who's been out there bringing in millions and millions of dollars, and he sends it's actually not a call, it was an app, a text message via WhatsApp to a Chinese businessman with ties to the Chinese Communist Party, as they all do. And going out there and saying, look, this thing that you promised us. It's almost like dialogue out of The Godfather. Did you take care of the thing that we wanted you to take care of? Because I need a quick answer here as to why you haven't taken care of the thing that's so important to me and my pa, who, by the way, just happens to be sitting right here. We'll be sitting right here until we hear from you, me and pa. Me and the big guy. We'll be right here. I don't know. Does he call him Pa?
Sounds like
Pops.
he's on the Waltons there.
Hey,
Good night,
Pa.
Ma. Good night, Pa.
Well, but anyway, so he's trying to shake down this person, and he suggests that the president, or I guess at the time he was vice president, was sitting right there, and we're expecting an answer from you. And then a short time later, $5 million drops into Hunter Biden's account. Coincidence? Well, we don't know. But people are now starting to ask the question, and in the White House briefing room, the question is, was your dad sitting there? Well, you'll have to talk to White House counsel. Well, are you not going to answer the question? No, I have answered the question, and the answer to the question is go to White House counsel and get their answer. But they're asking the question. I noticed, I'd like to know what I'm doing air quotes here, official explanation is. But Karine was not doing the briefing today. And they're not going to send her back out after that performance, which was not very good. Well, here's what we can tell you about that whole shakedown WhatsApp text message. I've got about 10 different stories here. I'm taking all of them and pulling together to give you one super story. I hope I didn't oversell it. Chris Clark, Hunter Biden's attorney, according to Breitbart, admitted the 2017 WhatsApp text demanding money from a CCP-linked businessman while sitting next to his dad was indeed Hunter's message. He has confirmed, yeah, that's Hunter. On Friday, one day after the House Ways and Means Committee released the IRS whistleblower testimony, that alleged Hunter Biden demanded payment using proximity to his father as a cudgel. Clark released a statement acknowledging the whistleblower's revelation. The statement tried to distance President Joe Biden from the scandal by framing Hunter Biden as a victim. Here is their official explanation. The DOJ investigation covered a period in which was a time of turmoil and addiction for my client, Hunter. Any verifiable words or actions of my client in the midst of a horrible addiction are solely his own and have no connection to anyone in his family. Was he in the room? I don't know. He didn't answer the question. Was Pop there? Was Dad standing by? Wow. Clark's statement came on the same day that Breitbart News reported the Biden family business received $5.1 million within 10 days of Hunter Biden's message to a CCP-linked businessman who worked with Chinese energy conglomerate CEFC Energy, according to a 2020 Senate report on the Biden family. See, all of this stuff is starting to come together. Many people who've never conducted an investigative, full-fledged investigation of something don't really understand, I think, how you go about it. And the first thing that you do is that you develop a timeline. It's just like some of those crime shows you see. You know, you develop a timeline. When did everything happen? Okay. And then you mark on the timeline where I have this little development. Now, when you get that development, it may not mean much to you, but you put it on the timeline. All right, on this date, this happened. And then you go along, and it may be another year before you get another piece of information that drops into the timeline. And you go, oh, well, that explains what this other little thing we didn't understand now means, right? So what I'm trying to express to you is they are continuing now that the House has subpoena power. They can get documents. They can talk to whistleblowers. They can do all of this kind of stuff. Now that they have somebody in power in the House, they are now putting a lot more information on the timeline, and they're just putting all kinds of little thumbtacks are going right in. Well, on this date this happened. This date this happened, and we're getting, as you get closer and closer to filling out all that timeline, all of a sudden, what you have, and it almost always happens, boom, 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 bing, 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 the lights go off. Things start to make sense. It's like putting together a puzzle and you don't know what the picture is. And then all of a sudden, that one piece comes in, you go, oh, well, now I know what that is. That's the way this is working. And as I had tried to tell you, I think what's important about all this is that each and every day they're adding to the story in a way where you go, well, that's pretty interesting. Well, that moves the story forward. Oh, well, that's something we haven't heard before. But again, that's why you build the timeline. Something that you may have heard a year ago or more that didn't make any sense to you, but you put it on the timeline, suddenly makes sense. And that sort of stuff is starting to happen now in this investigation. New York Post. Hunter Biden prosecutor, the prosecutor who was responsible for bringing the case in Delaware, this little slap on the wrist, which is nothing, has told 6 different witnesses over time that he did not have the authority to charge Hunter Biden outside of Delaware. The federal prosecutor tasked with investigating Hunter Biden told at least 6 witnesses that he lacked authority to charge the first son outside of Delaware and was denied special counsel status, according to an IRS whistleblower, and now the House Judiciary Committee wants to talk to both of them. Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss made the shocking disclosure at an October 7th, 2022 meeting with top IRS and FBI officials, contradicting sworn testimony from Attorney General Merrick Garland. IRS Supervisory Agent Gary Shapley told the House Ways and Means Committee last month. He surprised us by telling us on the charges, I'm not deciding official on whether charges are filed. I'm not the deciding official on whether charges are filed. That was a shock to everybody. The Attorney General says it's not true, but I'm telling you, David Weiss believed he did not have the authority to take on anything that beyond what happens in Delaware. He then shocked us with the earth-shattering news that the Biden-appointed U.S. Attorney, Matthew Graves, would not allow him to charge in his district. You're not bringing it in my town. added Shapley, who said Graves' refusal to prosecute meant that Hunter, now 53, would not face tax charges related to foreign income from Burisma Holdings in a scheme to evade his income taxes through a partnership with a convicted felon in 2014 and 2015. Do you see how this game is played? You may be the investigator, you may be the person in charge, but the people above you and the people around you can cut you off at the knees if they don't want to see a certain thing happen. You know, bureaucrats can kill you with 1,000 cuts. Yeah, we don't really want that over here. I don't want that in my backyard. No, I'm not going to do it. And apparently goes, well, okay, well, he may have taken millions of dollars in bribes, and his dad, who was the vice president at the time, may well have been a part of it all, and millions of dollars were going into shell corporations. But we just don't want to mess with that. It's insane. Hunter Biden's investigation, GOP lawmakers' eye testimony from David Weiss. This is the guy in Delaware, preparing to drill down on allegations that U.S. Attorney David Weiss faced roadblocks in the Hunter Biden investigation from the Justice Department under Attorney General Merrick Garland. Both Weiss and Garland have denied the claims, but two IRS whistleblowers who spent time investigating Biden told Congress that Weiss, appointed by former President Donald Trump, made several attempts to bring charges against Biden in jurisdiction overseen by U.S. attorneys appointed by his father. The Biden appointees allegedly blocked Weiss at every turn. Isn't that interesting? More news. This from PJ Media. During a recent interview on Newsmax, Representative James Comer, Republican of Kentucky, the chair of the House Oversight Committee, disclosed that he possesses further evidence concerning Hunter Biden, which will be made public soon. The revelation comes after whistleblower allegations against Biden family broke last week. Comer made the revelation while discussing recent denials by Attorney General Merrick Garland of the allegations made by two IRS whistleblowers who said the Justice Department stymied the investigation of Hunter Biden. They got in the way. Garland had claimed that Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss had full authority to investigate Hunter Biden as he saw fit. But according to Gary Shapley, this IRS whistleblower, Weiss kept saying over and over and over he was not the deciding official on whether charges against Hunter Biden could be filed. I think that's why we had the confusion when it came down with this, okay, he's going to have a minor tax charge and the gun thing, slap on the wrist, won't do any time. And somebody say, well, that's done. We're all done with Hunter. We say, well, no, we're not done with Hunter because we got this whole other, bribery thing, $10 million here, $5 million there, emails that need to be explained. Well, Weiss is now saying, I never had the authority to take on that part of the investigation. And that I tried on several occasions to do it. And they said no. Not here. Not in my backyard, you're not doing that. Joe Biden doubles down on campaign claim he never spoke with Hunter about business deals. This from the Daily Wire. Joe Biden appeared to stand by statements he made during the 2020 presidential campaign when he claimed he never spoke with his son about cutting business deals overseas. We played this for you yesterday. It was undecipherable, but you can barely hear the president go no to the question asked by Fox News reporter Jackie Heinrich. Did you lie about never speaking to Hunter about his business deals? Biden responded, no, before walking away without answering any further questions. And I'll leave you with this thought. You know that there's a great deal of irritation with the FBI over how they have weaponized that bureau and how things happen that seem to benefit Democrats and always harm Republicans. FBI Director Christopher Wray will appear before the House Judiciary Committee on July 12th. The source familiar with the scheduling confirmed to the Daily Caller. Republicans on the committee have criticized the Bureau at length for allegedly conducting politicized investigations, including Operation Crossfire Hurricane. Members are also likely to ask about investigations into former President Donald Trump and first son Hunter Biden, who recently pleaded guilty to 2 tax misdemeanors. Wray testified before Congress in November when he appeared before the Senate Judiciary Committee. This will be a humdinger. You know, you get the list of hearings. Yeah, we're going to be talking about the fisheries of cod in New England. No, don't care about that. And we're going to be looking at, washing machine hose connection regulations. No, I don't need to know about that. The FBI director is going to appear before the House. Oh, well, let's put that. That'll be and I put a little star by it, and then I would write the word humdinger. It's going to be a humdinger.
Did you get that from Joe Biden? Sounds like something he'd say.
Yeah, sounds like yeah, it's malarkey. It's 22 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. All right, Beacon, how you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. I mean, wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide you that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call. The experts at Beacon will take it from there. I mean, what do you have to lose except for all the worry? Get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path, that all the T's have been crossed and all the I's have been dotted. That number again is 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at askbeaconnow.com. That's askbeaconnow.com.
A Supreme Court ruling in North Carolina that looks at state versus federal oversight in elections. A woman assaults a police officer here in Tennessee, and a new development in a year-old case in Texas involving dead immigrants. Those stories and more coming up 3:30 right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 26 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk. On the other side of the equation, there have been some questions about whether the documents that might have been in the possession of the former President Trump in Mar-a-Lago and everything was rocking along. And I thought, well, this thing's going to probably go away without being too much to it, given the fact that they found boxes everywhere they looked. I didn't think that it was going to amount to much. But then there was a report that came out that said that that apparently the former president, in an interview, he was interviewed for a person who was writing a book about his former chief of staff, and he had agreed to talk to them about it. He was what appears to be waving around one of these classified documents that had to do with an attack on Iran. And everybody said, well, there's audio, because that indicates he wasn't handling this material the way it should have been handled. And you always say, well, I have to hear the audio tape on that before I can make a decision. Here it is. CNN got a hold of it, put it up on the web. Hang on, we're going to start this again because I want you to get the full benefit of this whole thing.
This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time,
she'd send it, she'd send it to Anthony Weiner, the pervert.
Please print.
By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it, and he said he wanted to attack Iran, and what? These are the
You did.
papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know, we'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify.
figure out a
See, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is classified.
now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so. Here and I have, and you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
It's
you.
incredible, right?
No,
Hey, bring
they
some
never
Cokes in,
reported
please.
So the way I'm reading this is they're having a conversation, and he'd been talking about a thing earlier, and he pulls off the top of his desk a top secret document that had been sent to him by the military, in which he explains, this totally proves my point. This is what I was trying to say. And he's apparently waving the thing around in front of them and showing them, I don't know how close they got to look at. It didn't sound like it was very close. Well, that's apparently the thing that they're now focused on. They're now looking at this and say, well, this audio claims he was not handling those classified documents in a way that they should have been handled. He said, in fact, at one point he mentioned, I really should, maybe we should get this declassified. If when I was president, I could declassify it, but I can no longer declassify it, suggesting that in his mind, it had not already been declassified, right? You see where we start to get into a sort of a complicated issue here. I don't know what's going to happen about the thing with Trump, but I can tell you this. If past his prologue, because his name is Trump, and because he has an R after his name, I think that you can count on this dual standard that we have within the Justice Department will continue. Throw the book at anybody that's got an R behind their name. Find, as we heard with Hunter Biden a few moments ago, find any way to get him out of trouble, bend over backwards, have the entire system working and leaning to help him out of his legal problems. But if you're Trump, well, you're going to be going to trial in about another month. Really, honestly, it's insane. But there you have it. I mean, that's there is the conversation. It has now been leaked. Two things were interesting. I saw one analysis from a sort of a left-leaning news organization that said, he's toast. He's toast. It's over. And then I saw another, which is sort of interesting idea that said, well, you know what, who probably leaked it? He probably leaked it himself. Because if he leaked it, every time somebody, happens where they go after Trump for something, as we told you yesterday, his numbers go up. They don't go down, they go up. So maybe he leaked it. I don't know. What a strange time we live in. 3:30 now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
31 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock, Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 88 degrees in Nashville. An excessive heat watch in effect all day today for the majority of Middle Tennessee. Could see that heat index tick up to 113. So stay in shade and drink some water. Traffic and weather coming up. A ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court today says states do not have unchecked authority to redraw election maps. They sided with a group of North Carolina voters who challenged Republican lawmakers who argued that the congressional redistricting plan that they had passed was unreviewable by the state Supreme Court. Had it gone the other way, it could have handed state legislatures more power to dictate and run federal elections. Crime here in Tennessee. A woman allegedly assaulted police officers while being arrested in South Nashville yesterday. 26-year-old Rachel Haskins drove through a traffic stop, later fled her car on foot. They had to locate her with a helicopter while she was hiding in the woods. Haskins opened the back door of the patrol car by reaching her hand through the window, and she then proceeded to kick both officers in the legs. Officers later had to restrain her to ensure she didn't try to escape again. And 1 year ago today, 53 undocumented immigrants were found dead in the back of a tractor trailer in San Antonio. Among the dead were 8 children, all overcome by extreme heat. 1 year later, there are new developments in this case, as we hear from Alex Stone.
At the 1 year mark, federal agents say they have arrested 4 more suspects in the smuggling crime that took so many lives. 2 others were arrested shortly after the bodies were found. U.S. Attorney Jaime Esparza says those involved knew conditions in the truck were bad and without air conditioning after a 3-hour drive from Laredo.
And the evidence will show that as temperatures rose inside the trailer, the people trapped inside screamed and banged on the walls for help.
The charges against the suspects could get them life in prison.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
All right, let's talk about United Structural Systems when it comes to large home repairs. A lot of times homeowners don't want to know the news. They're afraid that the news is going to be bad. That's especially true when you're talking about waterproofing and foundation repair. Well, here are the things you should know. Yeah, it could be something that needs to be fixed. That's a possibility. It's also possible that it could be a small thing that will, if you get it fixed now, you'll save a lot of money down the path because these small things have a way of becoming bigger things over time. Or you could find out that it's absolutely not much to worry about at all, and you get peace of mind that way that, at least we checked and now we know. You need peace of mind, and you need a company that's going to shoot straight with you and not try to sell you stuff you don't need, and that's United Structural Systems. Thousands and thousands and thousands of satisfied residential customers. They'll come out to your house, they'll look at your situation, they'll give you their best advice. If you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny till the job's done, and you're completely satisfied. And there are a lot of satisfied customers. Let me give you a couple of them. Chris put it this way: the crew that worked on our house has been top-notch. I appreciate the integrity, the speed of feedback, and the quality of work provided by all who have worked for us. And here's Jerry in Hermitage. This is the best crew we have ever had to do work on our house. Best I have ever seen. Very professional. They did an excellent job. USS serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. Or call this number. Make a note of it. It's a new number, 615-488-7855. 38 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock. Brian Wilson in the chair. Mac Morey in the newsroom, being all newsy. He's got all that news stuff covered, and there's Chris Weber in the control room pushing all the blinky buttons and making sure, as always, the show is seamless. Until I'm responsible for pushing a blinky button or two, and then it all falls apart. More than you possibly know. Let me get you this going, because I've said yesterday, and again, we're getting into the doldrums of summer. It used to be said that, in Washington, nothing happens in August. You know what? A lot of things have happened in August in recent years, and they don't really say that as much. I think, though, it is true to say that things, start to slow down a bit in, June and July. A lot of people taking vacation times. It's the natural flow and ebb, or would that be ebb and flow? I'm not sure which is for ebb and flow of the situation, where people just take time off and then things do, sort of slow down. But one of the things you can count on this time of year is you're going to get your big rulings from the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court. And let's go through some of what we know now. I mean, there's supposed to be some big ones coming out. I think, according to this story, well, I'll just read it. This is from Fox 17's version of the story, a real good explainer. All eyes are on the Supreme Court this week, as the nation's top court is expected to release decisions on 10 cases, including President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness program, as well as 2 dealing with affirmative action. Biden's plan would have forgiven up to $10,000 in federal loan debt for people who made less than $125,000, or $250,000 for couples. Students who receive Pell Grants are eligible for an additional $10,000 in relief. So there you have that one. The cost of suspending student loans would have been about $400 billion, and Biden believed he had the authority to do this through executive order. Through the power vested in me as, who am I? Oh, yes, I'm the President of the United States. I hereby forgive your debt. Well, nobody thinks that he has the right to do that. Chief among them was Nancy Pelosi. She was convinced that you couldn't do that without going back to Congress. But nonetheless, Biden was out there making these promises and gaining favor with young voters just ahead of the midterm elections. So it's Biden versus Nebraska, which involves 6 states, and the Department of Education versus Brown, which involves a couple of students. The big question for the case is, are these the right people to be bringing the case? Do they have standing? So if they say they don't have standing, then the thing just dies. If they agree that indeed one of these or 2 of these have standing and they can go forward, well, then it seems very clear that what will happen is that they will find that the president has overstepped his boundaries. I mean, it seems very clear that has happened. Yeah, I'll be shocked if there's any other decision but that. But I guess the question is, if you say, well, if you want to just avoid the question, you simply say, well, they don't have standing. Okay, so that's one that's going to be out there. And this one is really interesting as well, and it has to do with education as well. There's a big case pending about whether or not colleges can use racial quotas, basically. There we go. 9 justices will decide whether colleges and universities can continue to use race in the admissions process. The Constitution is colorblind here, says one expert. We need to make sure that racial preferences do not have a place in our public universities or in universities that are receiving public funding. 2 suits dealing with that, one from Harvard, one from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And apparently, in the past, the precedent has given them the ability to say certain races, well, we can discontinue or disallow your application, not because, you're not qualified, but because, well, we have too many Asian people coming to school here or whatever. It actually would allow them to do that. And in the past, they've sort of had the support of some precedents that allowed them to go forward with that. But again, this particular case would be very different, saying, and I hope here is, I hope that they are allowed to say, look, the people who come to this university and are willing to pay money to come to this university for an education, should be the best students we can possibly get. It doesn't matter what their skin color is. It doesn't matter what the color of their skin is. We just want people who are qualified to come. And so, will they be continuing to use race as sort of a backdrop for making these kind of decisions? Hard to believe that universities would want to defend that, but apparently they have. There was a ruling that came down from the High Court today with regard to North Carolina, but it larger implications. The Supreme Court said Tuesday that the North Carolina Supreme Court did not violate the election clause of the U.S. Constitution when it invalidated the state's 2022 congressional map, rejecting a broad version of a controversial legal independent state legislature theory pushed by supporters of former President Donald Trump. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the opinion, and it was a 6-3 decision. The case had captured the nation's attention because Republican lawmakers in North Carolina were asking the justices to adopt a long-dormant legal theory and to hold that state courts and other state entities have a limited role in reviewing election rules established by state legislatures when it comes to federal elections. State courts retain the authority to apply state constitutional restraints when legislatures act under the power conferred upon them by the Elections Clause, Roberts wrote. That's a pretty interesting outcome there. And will it have larger ramifications? Yeah, because I think there were a lot of state legislatures. I need to check and see how this might impact our situation here in Tennessee, but a lot of state legislatures were looking at how the courts would rule in this matter, because it might mean that a lot of maps have to get redrawn. And that would be right before, a major election. Maps are going to get redrawn. Some state legislatures have had a authoritative pen as they color in the maps. Maybe it was like, a crayon. I don't know, maybe a map color. You used to have map colors. That's when I was a kid, you had crayons. But then there were things that you needed to do, and you would get map colors. And they were like really nice pencil. You never had map colors?
I don't recall those, no.
Wow. Huh. Well, one way or the other, they would use it in a very authoritative way to paint, and to make sure that, if you're the Republican legislature and you have a supermajority, push through whatever you like. And now what's happening here is they say that there are certain standards that need to be in play, and this idea of independent legislatures, and you can't tell the legislature what to do, has now been decided by the highest court in the land, 6-3 decision. John Roberts read that indeed you have to walk away from this legal independent state legislature theory. At least that's the way it stands right now. Highest court in the land. I mean, this is the big time of year for them. So they still got a bunch of stuff that's out there. But again, I think probably student loan forgiveness is the big one. I expect that might come to tomorrow or Wednesday. There's still like 10 big cases that are still outstanding. I don't know why they don't just spread these out a little bit. What happens at the Supreme Court is sort of like how that whole place operates is sort of like nobody really understands it. When I first went to Washington, one of the most interesting books that I read was a book about the Supreme Court. I don't know why I chose that one, but it was interesting. And it was for me as someone who had worked in local news for a long time, and now I was moving to the nation's capital. The idea that there were justices that were conservative and justices that were liberal was sort of a novel concept to me at the time, because when I went to court, basically it was, did this guy do it or did he not do it? That's what I knew about the court of law. Is this allegation accurate or is it not? Did this person commit the murder? Did this person not commit the murder? That's the kind of stuff that I was. So the whole idea that big decisions were being made, and they were being made from the point of view of having an ideological viewpoint as a sitting judge. Some people have said that the big cases that have come out of the Supreme Court this term have surprised a lot of people, because a lot of people thought that they would run amok with the 6-3 conservative majority, that they would just bam, 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 just ram stuff through. Simply really hasn't been the case. You never know what goes on behind those closed doors, and you never know what the human dynamic is at play. And you never know when you bring in a new person, and recently they brought in Ketanji Jackson Brown. When that person comes in, how do they change? How does that change the nature of the court when you get behind closed doors and begin your deliberations? I mean, it is a institution that is not only one that is focused on the law when it's working right, but it is also an institution that's very collegial, and a great deal of deference is given to opinions that you don't agree with. And so when the human dynamic changes within the high court, even if it's one or two members, you never can really predict how it's going to come out. And it has not been, even though it's a 6-3 conservative majority, allegedly, it really has not been a 6-3 ramrod conservative court. And we'll watch very closely to see how it comes out tomorrow. Look for student loan forgiveness and the affirmative action cases, I think, in the next day or so. It is 50 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things that we see from time to time, well, way too often, is this. Let's say that you go to a financial advisor and they say, hey, you need to set up an investment portfolio, and what we need to do is we need to have some of your money in stocks or mutual funds or ETFs or something like that, and we need to have something fixed or guaranteed in your investment portfolio that'll protect you against the market downturns. And quite often what they're talking about, they may not use this word, but often what they're talking about is putting your money into some sort of an annuity, like an indexed annuity or something like that, or a fixed annuity. And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, let's put your money in both of these, which sounds really good. And you should. And typically in an investment portfolio, you do want to have fixed investments and stocks as well in the portfolio to protect against inflation. But here's what happens when you manage a portfolio. Let me use a really, really simple example. Let's say I have a portfolio and I got stocks in there. Then I have my fixed income, my bonds in the portfolio as well. And let's say I have half my money in each. When stocks really do well, what we want to do is they're going to be overweighted in my portfolio. I own too much of them because they've done well compared to bonds. It was supposed to be half and half, and now maybe it's 70% stocks and 30% bonds, let's say, or something like that. So I want to sell some of this and buy some of that to bring it back to 50-50 and back and forth throughout time. Well, the problem is when you're managing a portfolio and rebalancing in that way, bringing it back to the original portfolio mix of half and half in my example, I'm going to have to incur a trading cost or a commission or a back-end surrender with the annuity. It doesn't make any sense to use that product in this particular manner. Why do people do it? Well, the reason quite often is this. Commissions are very high with these products. And a lot of firms, they actually require their advisors to recommend a certain amount of annuities for every person that walks in the door. Now, typically annuities are used for a different purpose. They were actually designed for a totally different purpose. And that was distribution toward the end of life. When somebody looks like they're going to run out of money, they're annuitized. Now, let me tell you something. One study showed there was only like 5% of annuities are ever used in that fashion. Most often they're sold as an accumulation vehicle like this, and they were never really designed for that purpose. If you want to learn more, call us for a free 15-minute phone call, or go to our website, paulwinkler.com. The number 615-851-1950 or paulwinkler.com. We don't do anything on commission, and we like to rail against these types of things and help investors do what is in their best interest. paulwinkler.com.
Elections almost changed for forever today. The return of Canadian wildfire smoke and a famous musician with roots right here in Tennessee passes away. That and more coming up at 4. I'm Mac Maury right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 57 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Take a look at the markets right now. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 212 points. The S&P up more than a percentage, up 49 points. The NASDAQ up over 1.5%, 219 points. All screens are in the green, so positive news there on the market. And John Maxson, standing by over at Beacon Capital Management, positive news with regard to consumer confidence this go-round.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. The market had a great day. It was green across the board, and that consumer confidence report that you spoke about rose from 102.5 to 109.7. Now, the significance of that is that that's a 17-month high, and you're talking about an economy that about 70% is driven by consumers. So if they feel more confident, and they clearly do based on this report, that tends to be a good thing for the economy. What seems to be happening is that Americans seem to be convinced that inflation is slowing. There seems to be still some, but less worried about an impending recession. So consumer confidence being up, that's a really good thing for the economy. We're going to continue to see if inflation affects that or not moving forward.
All right, John Maxson, thank you very much. And you can learn about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, and it's real easy. AskBeaconNow.com. AskBeaconNow.com. 58 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let's talk about Busy Bee HVAC. And if you have problems with your AC, and man, I'm telling you, with this hot weather coming on, going to be 97, 98, 99. We might even pop into 100 territory. If your AC's not working, you need help quick. Just call the number that I would call, 775-7833. That's right, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. They will buzz over to your hive, solve whatever problem you got. And if you get to the point where you have to replace a system, that's not every time, but sooner or later they get old. In about 20 years, you get that much use out of one, you've done something. So if you have to replace one, you're not going to find a better place to find a replacement system for your plumbing or heating than the folks at Busy Bee. For as little as $99, you get 3 thorough maintenance services, one on your heating, one aimed at your cooling, one aimed at your plumbing. No overtime charges, 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner, 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
It's 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Excessive heat watch with the possibility for the heat index to get above 110 today. Right now, 90 degrees in Nashville. Complete weather and traffic report in just a few minutes. A Supreme Court decision today making clear that state legislatures don't have unchecked power over federal elections. Lindsay Watts explains from Washington.
The Supreme Court has delivered a strong rejection of a fringe legal theory that's been supported by some conservatives that threaten to upend election laws nationwide and expand the power of state legislatures. It's a key decision ahead of the 2024 presidential race, where new legal challenges over state voting laws are expected. The court's decision makes clear that state courts still have a role to play in making sure elections are fair and legal, and state legislatures are not unlimited in their power.
Canadian wildfire smoke has made its return. It's coating the Midwestern portion of the U.S. right now. Chicago's air quality index hit 250 on Tuesday. That's a rating of unhealthy for at-risk people and those sensitive to pollutants. Over in Wisconsin, they had the worst air on the planet. Next, the haze heads east and will once again obscure much of New York. Governor Kathy Hochul says the smoke will hit central and western portions of New York tomorrow, then NYC on Thursday.
If you want to know the effects of climate change, you're going to feel it tomorrow in real time. This is not something that we're talking about future generations dealing with it. We are truly the first generation to feel the real effects of climate change, and we're also the last generation to do anything meaningful about it.
And things to help prevent smoke inhalation here in this condition is limit outdoor exposure, use air purifiers, keep windows closed, and if you're going to go outside, break out a mask if you're in those areas. Here in the mid-state, though, the air quality, nothing to be concerned about right now. Car news, Volvo is the latest automaker to announce its future EVs will adopt the North American charging standard, also known as the Tesla charger. That means starting in 2025, new Volvo EVs will be able to fill up on electricity at more than 12,000 Tesla supercharging stations. And a legend to Tennessee music has died today. Bobby Osborne, one part of the famous Osborne brothers who sang Rocky Top, passed away today. He co-founded the Bluegrass group alongside his brother Sonny and premiered the act in Knoxville in the early 50s. The group became a member of the Grand Ole Opry in 1964 and was inducted into the National Bluegrass Hall of Honor in 1994. And the song Rocky Top was first played by the Tennessee's Pride of the Southland band in 1972 during a halftime show against Alabama. Osborne was 91. And that's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, in for hour number 2 on this 27th day of June. And, we're getting ready to get into, the really hot weather. That's coming this week. Temperatures will be right. I bet you somehow we bloop into hundreds. That's what I'm thinking.
I hope it ain't at my house.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, I was looking at the weather map at my old hometown of Odessa, Texas, where I grew up, and it's like 104 degrees. Dallas, Fort Worth, 110.
Good grief.
Yeah, I'm telling you that is just, that's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I used to not think that a degree or so. What's the difference between 90 and 100? It's really is it all in your mind? Because honestly, it's only 10 degrees. It's only 10 degrees. I mean, honestly, is that a big deal? It is a big deal. And I'll tell you where I learned this is I got a hot tub. I got an Ecoline, EcoSpa hot tub, and it goes up to 104. But if you if you have to replace the water and you put in really hot water, you might get it up to 105, might get it up to 106. The difference between 104 and 105 is a lot more than you might imagine.
Sounds uncomfortable to me.
No, actually, it's quite good.
Is it?
Quite good. Yeah. Yeah, but you get up to about 6 or 7, then you're talking about, well, this is painful. Let's get out of here. But apparently, I understand the standard now for hot tubs is 104. You buy a new hot tub, it's not really supposed to go above 104. There are things that little pro tip. There are things you can do with a medical override.
Really?
If a doctor says you really need, hotter therapy than that, there are ways that you can patch around it, I'm told. I've never been able to figure it out, but I've been told that happens. I mean, it really does make a big difference. So, it's going to be hot, and we're going to start to travel. I spoke a little bit about this yesterday. It looks like we're going to travel the 4th of July weekend, which is the upcoming weekend. Is going to be a lot of folks going on vacation. Record numbers of Americans expected to travel, despite facing higher prices compared with a year ago. According to AAA, 50.7 million Americans will travel at least 50 miles from home during the long weekend, surpassing the previous record of 49 million travelers in 2019. So, we went through a slump during the pandemic, although, I never really ever stopped. I never did not take a trip because of the pandemic.
Same. Yeah. I didn't either.
I said, take my chances. I'm going to share a little story. We're going to New Mexico here in a few days. You're going to go up to the mountains of New Mexico. When you lived in West Texas growing up, if you want to get to someplace cool, then, the Enchanted Circle up in the mountains of New Mexico, where you have places like Red River and Angel Fire and Taos, all these ski resorts up there during the winter are great places to go in the summer. Cloudcroft, New Mexico, etc. So a lot of West Texans go up there. So I haven't been there in a lot of years, and so we're going to go in a few days. And the last time we were going to do this, the last time we were driving, and we got to New Mexico, coming across the Texas Panhandle into New Mexico, and we're heading into New Mexico. We're listening to the local radio. And they're doing stories out of Albuquerque saying, if you enter the state and you go to a hotel, you're here for 4 days.
Oh, yeah, when they were doing those quarantines, yep.
During the quarantines, all the pandemic quarantines, you have to stay here for 4 days. We started, right then and there, we just started making new plans. We went right through New Mexico and on into Colorado, where we had a great time. So, we'll be going back this time. Hopefully they won't make us stay that long. But a lot of people are going to be traveling, thousands and thousands. And even here in Middle Tennessee, I forget the number, but it was quite a huge number of people who are going to be traveling. Maybe you're doing a trip to, out to the mountains. Maybe you're going to Dollywood. I don't know.
Go visit the new Buc-ee's.
Yeah, you got to go to the new Buc-ee's. Yeah, that's definitely worth the trip. I found this story though, and when you find somebody who has beaten the system somehow, you pay attention to that person because see what you can learn from that individual. And this is a story about a guy named Tom Stuker. Stuker. He's flown more miles than any human being in the history of human beings. 23 million miles so far, or about 22 million more miles than Apollo 11. 69-year-old New Jersey car dealership consultant, and he is the biggest mistake that United Airlines ever made. In 1990, United offered a lifetime pass. You could get a lifetime pass to fly anywhere you wanted to go on United Airlines, anywhere, anytime, $290,000. Stuker jumped on it and has pretty much lived in seat 1B, his favorite seat, ever since. He once went 12 straight days without sleeping in a bed, just jetting from Newark to San Francisco to Bangkok to Dubai and back again, the equivalent of 4 trips around the world, leaving the sky only for the airport lounge. Why? Well, because he was able to rack up the miles. You see, he got a lifetime pass, and he still got miles.
Ooh, smart fella.
Yeah, for the miles. Best investment in my life, Stuker said. He realized his frequent flyer miles aren't just valuable for booking more flights. Once you get them, they can be redeemed through the airlines, and Stuker has lived like a sultan on United Airlines ever since. Lavish hotel suites all over the world, weeks-long crystal cruises, gourmet meals from Perth to Paris. Wow. According to Stuker, 373 trips in 365 days. His best year was in 2019. He took 373 flights, covered 1.5 million miles. If he had bought all these flights in cash, it would have cost him over $2.44 million. Didn't cost him a penny.
And plus he got all that other stuff for free on top of it.
Yeah.
Wow. That guy's a genius.
He is a genius. And, you would think, well, I can't lay down that kind of money for a lifetime pet. But, I mean, it's paid off for him so well. Everywhere he goes, he almost does it for free. Sometimes, he says, this is where I thought, fascinating story. Sometimes hostages love their captors. And United loves their lost leader. They're not making any money on this guy at all, but they adore him. Over the years, the airline has put his name on not 1 but 2 planes. Thomas R. Stuker, customer. They help him, let him design the menu on their new Polaris Club. He says that when he has a tight connection, listen to this. He has a tight connection. There's a Mercedes waiting on the tarmac.
Wow.
On the tarmac to whoosh him over to his other flight.
That's living right there.
That's living right there. I flew with him from Newark to Los Angeles once just to see it all for myself. Stuker doesn't do airlines like you and I do airlines. When he calls the 800 number, they go, "Hello, Mr. Stuker, how are you?" He's got his own number. Ropes come down, doors fly open, free champagne bottles end up in his bag. You know how the gold, diamond, platinum level customer is way better than your board payments first. Well, if you're first class, you're still 10 minutes behind Tom Stuker, who is already sitting in seat 1B eating his peanuts by the time the first class people ever arrive. Something else. Man. And then a couple, real quick, I got a couple things. You learn something from him. First of all, he says, anybody ever die up there with you? In all of his travels, he said 4 people have died of heart attacks.
Wow.
He said, I met a couple of them, died right in their seats. The last guy was up in business with me, Chicago to Narita, Tokyo. They covered him with a blanket and put the seatbelt back on. What else can you do?
Oof.
He says, but I guarantee there was somebody in business class sitting back there thinking, hey, is he going to eat that chocolate sundae?
Oh, that's terrible.
I think I like this guy's sense of humor. Okay, advice. Now, if this guy has flown more miles than anywhere else, what do you learn? What is his guidance for you? How can you learn to be a good flyer? He knows all the tricks, right? He knows all of them. He's aced it every every way possible. Number 1, this is a great tip. Now, I have done this from time to time at restaurants. You tell the first flight attendant you meet, hey, I remember you. The person at the door is the head flight attendant. So if you say to the head flight attendant, hey, I remember you. You gave us such great service last time. I wanted to thank you again. Even if you've never met that person, you say that.
Boy,
and I guarantee you she will bring you all kinds of free stuff.
That is slick.
So there you go. I mean, I used to go to restaurants in New York City. And like you go to Little Italy and New York City, and all of the Italian restaurants are great. They're just great.
Mm-hmm.
So you walk in the door and say, you would get the maitre d' at the front door, and you say, I am so excited to be here. I said, I have friends who've told me they travel the world and they say the best Italian food in the entire planet is right here in this restaurant. I can't wait to sit down and eat a meal here. I've heard about this forever. Well, that's right. We serve the very best. And I mean to tell you, you are treated like gold. Have done that a time or two.
It's pretty smart.
If you couldn't book a seat you wanted, keep your phone open on the Seat Map app as you board. If a block seat that you wanted opens up, just take it. They don't care. They never sold the seat.
I guess
So
that
you're
makes
sitting
sense,
there,
right?
Yeah. So just, if you, well, I like that chair better. I'm going to move up there. Nobody will say a word to you. Never check a bag. Never, ever, ever, never, ever check a bag. And underpack. Every town has laundromats. Every town has stores. And then the last thing, and I think this is a personal thing, don't be a jerk and use your cell without headphones. That way people won't hate you. Whenever somebody takes a long business call on speaker, I always say, hey, the next time you're going to have all of us over for your business meetings, would you please bring donuts?
I imagine he sat through quite a few of those annoying phone
There's
calls.
nothing more irritating than that, is there?
Wow.
And then apparently they said, my best travel advice, the person who wrote this article, get to know Tom Stuker. He has miles coming out of his attic windows. He loves to upgrade his friends. Plus, Stuker's miles will get you to a number one on any United upgrade list from today until the day he drops dead, which is hopefully not until after he eats his chocolate sundae.
Uncle Tom. I'm going to give him a call.
23 million miles.
Wow.
I mean, there were times when I thought I was, I've lived in a lot of airplanes for years of my life, did a lot of travel. There were times when I was on planes, probably, flying somewhere more than I was staying home, I'm pretty sure. But 23 million miles. Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. Well, now you heard from the best how to scam. And really, the head person, when you walk in the door, the flight attendant, it's so good to see you again. Gosh, we will never forget how wonderful you were to us on that flight from blah, 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 blah.
I'm going to remember that. I'm going to use that one day.
Yeah, use that. It comes in handy. People, if you set up the expectation that you're expecting a remarkable experience at a restaurant or at an event or whatever it is, most of the time people will do everything they can to meet that expectation.
Pretty smart.
I watched a lot of people who were smarter than me game that system. 21 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. DT McCall, listen, all kinds of stuff for your house over at DT McCall. It could be appliances, furniture, mowers, guns. I mean, what do you need for your home? There's a pretty good chance the folks at DT McCall have got it in one of their 5 convenient locations in Middle Tennessee. Huge selection is very important. Cabana wife and I went over to this shop for furniture. We were having a real struggle over the couch. I had one idea, she had another, but you know what? Because we went to DT McCall, so much selection, so many things to look at, within a few moments, we quickly came to agreement. She got it her way. But I mean, no, seriously, we came to agreement on it. And that helps because they had a lot of selection. As you know, they've been around for 100 years, and whenever possible, they sell products that are made and manufactured in the state of Tennessee. And they're going to give you an honest price. Not going to play any games with you. The price they give you is an honest price with the item delivered, set up, and the old thing hauled away. All you need. You're going to find out more about DT McCall and all the things they do by going to their website, dtmccalls.com.
A Supreme Court decision regarding elections today. Some new laws coming to the volunteer state this Saturday. A tragic story involving NASCAR driver Jimmy Johnson's family. And we'll also have today's money news. Those stories and more coming up 30 minutes after the hour, 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 26 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You know, this song is a controversial song that we're going to play for you here on the radio. It's controversial, I think, because it got tied to a football program. And also the Bluegrass people. I know a few Bluegrass people in Nashville. And the one thing that you never do at a Bluegrass concert is if they ever ask you, what do you want to hear? You never yell out Rocky Top. I mean, it's like going to a guitar store and trying to play Stairway to Heaven. You just don't do it.
Unwritten rule, right?
It's just one of the general unspoken rules of polite society that if you go to a guitar store, you do not play Stairway to Heaven. And there's good reason for that because nobody does it right. And but the other thing is if you're in a Bluegrass concert, never ask for Rocky Top. Well, the person who sang and is best known by being the lead vocal on that song, Rocky Top, is a guy by the name of Bobby Osborne. And he's that high voice. Crank that up. That's good. Bobby Osborne, Bluegrass great and singer of Rocky Top, dies at the age of 91. Became a native of Hayden, Kentucky, died Tuesday morning, according to folks over at the Hazard Community and Technical College. I don't know why in the world would the Hazard Community and Technical College have information about that. I don't know. Co-founded the Bluegrass group alongside his brother Sonny and premiered the act in Knoxville in the early 50s. They became a member of the Grand Ole Opry in 1964 and inducted into the International Bluegrass Hall of Honor in 1994. Sonny Osborne died in 21 at age 84. Had a very distinctive three-part harmony. A lot of Bluegrass acts were very influenced by the Osborne brothers, no doubt about that. One of the first bands to use drums and electric instruments. That is still quite controversial in Bluegrass circles. But they just like to have a good old foot stomping time. This song was released on Christmas Day of 1967. Written by Country Music Hall of Fame and Songwriter Hall of Fame members Boudleaux and Felice Bryant. Now, they wrote songs for everybody, from Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel all the way down to the names are the Everly Brothers. I mean, they wrote for everyone.
Wow.
I would have loved to have been, if I could have had been in a situation where you could sit in the background. Hold, let's hit Big Finish here. Here we go. I like that little. It's like okay, the ding 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 wasn't enough. You got to add a little. Add the little blunk at the end. By the way, my Bluegrass career not going very well.
Oh.
You know, I purchased a banjo.
Yeah, that's right.
Or it's, as my friend Ricky Skaggs calls it, a banger. And I really have not advanced very far.
Does that mean you haven't played it at all? Or?
Well, I mean, I ended up getting a baby grand piano for the music room.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been spending a lot of time on that. And I will pick up and try to learn the banjo. But yes, I have a baby grand piano and a banjo in the same room.
Same room, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And a Gibson SJ 200. It's my favorite new guitar. Anyway, no, it's just not going anywhere. I need people to play with, need people to teach. That's the way it goes. But Bobby Osborne, getting back to him, dead at the age of 91, one of the greats in Bluegrass. Certainly, if you talk to anybody who understands really how Bluegrass developed in the 40s and then after. Isn't that strange? You think it's older than that, don't you?
Seems like it should be. Yeah.
I think I have a theory on that because I think Bonnie and Clyde was not the 40s. That was the 20s. And the movie that came out, Bonnie and Clyde, had a lot of bluegrass music in it. And I think people of our era look at that and say, oh, well, this was music that developed in the 20s. No, it was developed in the 40s. It was
They got that all wrong, didn't they?
Pre-war and post-war. That's when it was all really came about. It is 30 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 89 degrees and another hot day in this hot week. Right now, an excessive heat watch in effect for the rest of today. Heat indexes could get above 110 again right now. 89 degrees in Music City. Complete weather and traffic report coming up. The Supreme Court ruled against Republicans in North Carolina who were looking to make changes to the state's power over election laws. It was a 6-3 decision to reject the legal theory to give state legislators unchecked power over federal election rules. Terry Moran covers the story and tells us what was being attempted.
This was a very radical theory, the notion that unfettered power rests with the legislatures and the legislatures alone to determine the time, place, and manner of elections. No governor could veto it. No court could review it. Election officials did not have powers in that area. It was a sweeping assertion of power. And what this does is basically bring the election discussion back down to earth as we all know it.
New laws coming to Tennessee on July 1st. This Saturday, students may be expelled for a year if they threat mass violence. Bringing a gun or assaulting a teacher could warrant this punishment. Decisions will be made on a case-by-case basis. And this just in, NASCAR legend Jimmy Johnson's in-laws and nephew were found dead after an apparent murder-suicide. Police received a call yesterday from a woman who said that someone had a gun before hanging up. Officials arrived to find them all laying on the floors of the home dead. Jimmy Johnson has withdrawn from this weekend's race in Chicago. And now over to some money news. Daria Albinger walks us through what happened today on Wall Street.
What a difference a day makes. Stocks rose on a round of better than expected economic reports. The Dow closed up 212 points, the Nasdaq rose 220, and the S&P added 50. Airlines led the way. Delta rose 6.5%. The carrier saying it's still seeing pent-up demand as passengers make up for lost opportunities to travel during the pandemic. American and United were both up more than 5%. Consumer confidence jumped this month to its highest level since the start of 2022, and orders for durable goods rose in May, despite analysts' expectations that they'd drop. Ford Motor Companies announced another round of white-collar job cuts, a cost-cutting move as the company continues to transition to electric vehicles. Several hundred engineers and other salaried employees are learning this week that their jobs have been eliminated. Last week, Ford let about 20 contract workers go.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. It's a great place to do work with you doing problems with your back, your arms, your legs, your neck. If you're in pain, you need to go there. By the way, did I mention they're a proud sponsor of the drive? We're very happy to have them. Now, they have a thing going on. It's called the 1776 Patriot Special. And in honor of the upcoming Independence Day holiday, Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley Mitchell want to offer all patriots and conservatives a special deal. Your first appointment, only $17.76. That includes a consultation, x-rays. You can bring in an x-ray or an MRI report if you have one. They'll sit down and discuss, come up with a treatment option plan for you. And I'm telling you, that's where the magic begins. They'll give you a plan, then they start you down the path. And if you're like most people who go there, including me, you're going to find that you feel better pretty quick. If you mention your favorite host, which of course we all know, with all due respect to other hosts, that it's me, just mention my name and they will give you an additional 10% off all future services. So here's the number, 615-246-5009. That's 615-246-5009. Learn more by going to their website, painisbad.com. I don't know what to think about this next story, and I don't know that I can, I don't know that I can get over this. I mean, where was my invitation to try out is what I want to know. We told you some time ago that after some 40-some-odd seasons that Pat Sajak was going to walk away from the Wheel of Fortune. And I got to tell you, as somebody who has been a wheel watcher for many, many, many years. I hate to hear that, but he's done it for a long time. He's been there. He wasn't, by the way, the original host. Did you know that?
I think I did know that. Yeah.
I forget who it was, but it wasn't him. But he did it for about 40 seasons after that. And so there you have it. And so the question has been, who could possibly replace Pat Sajak?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, can anyone really replace Pat Sajak? I mean, he's such an institution. He's so iconic. When you think of Wheel of Fortune, can you think of anything else other than Pat Sajak and Vanna White? You can't. You just can't. They are iconic. Well, they have made a decision, and they have picked the person that I am not entirely sure might not be Satan incarnate. They say the Antichrist walks the earth among us. And so, I don't know. Is it possible that Ryan Seacrest is the Antichrist? I don't know that. It's just an idea I heard one time. But they have picked up Ryan Seacrest. Does anybody get Ryan Seacrest?
Apparently someone with Wheel of Fortune does. I don't know. That's just, is this the Wheel of Fortune intro? Good grief. It says
that doesn't sound right to me.
Okay.
Well, apparently, Pat Sajak as on the way out, and the replacement will be Ryan Seacrest. Wheel of Fortune made the announcement on Twitter, writing, "It's official, starting in 2024." That's what I'm looking for. Now, welcome our host, Pat Sajak. I was getting ready to do the best part. Yeah. And Vanna White. So there's two things that I always want to do. I would like to be the guy who does the Wheel of Fortune, and if I had a dream job, or even less pressure, good job, still a good job, the announcer.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'd like to do the announcing.
Yeah.
Then you just, you got 10 seconds of airtime, and then you're not.
Well, but you have to do the other things like, he's won a new car, Pat. You got to do that.
Do they still do that?
Hell yeah. It's a brand new car. That's more, I think that's more of, what do you call it?
Price is Right.
Price is Right. Price is Right. But I mean, I practice on. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry you didn't win. I would like to be that guy, though. I think it'd be a good job. Anyway, getting back to Ryan Seacrest, I'm truly humbled to be stepping into the footsteps of the legendary Pat Sajak. Seacrest said in a statement, I can say that along with the rest of America that it's been a privilege and pure joy to watch Pat and Vanna on our television screens for an unprecedented 40 years, making us smile every night and feel right at home with them. Pat, I love the way you've always celebrated the contestants. Until recently, you could say that.
Did he say that, or did you add that?
No. This is Ryan Seacrest saying that. Pat, I love the way you've always celebrated the contestants and made the viewers feel at home at ease. I don't know that he's always celebrated of late the contestants. I mean, there's been some things that he's actually been called out for it, where he's been sort of snarky about it.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's like he's looking at the camera. And he said, "Can you believe this bonehead cannot figure this one out?" You know, he never says it that way, but you can tell just by the look in his eyes, by the dead look in his eyes, that he's over it. He's done about as many Wheel of Fortunes as he possibly can do.
Or it's one of those rules that, those certain types of puzzles where you have to say it just right and they don't say it right. I think he's just so fed up with people not doing it, not following the rules, that he's just had enough.
Anyway, continuing, Ryan Seacrest, who may or may not be the Antichrist, we're not sure. I love the way you've always... I'm going to get in trouble for that.
Maybe.
I don't think that Ryan Seacrest is the Antichrist. What I don't understand is how Ryan Seacrest makes a living at all. Well, I mean, honestly...
He's willing to put in the time. I guess that's you give him that.
He's got a face that looks like a frog, he does. He looks like a big, giant frog. Every time I see him, I say, "Oh, there's old frog Seacrest." But the other thing is that I guess there is always going to be a position in entertainment for somebody who just is sort of there, but not offensive, just moves the thing along, can act as a sort of an MC or a host or whatever you need. You could get to do a show, do a talk show, just keep things moving along. But I've never heard him express a particularly interesting idea, not one time. I mean, he certainly has learned what his brand is, and he's certainly learned how to use it. He's made millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars following in the footsteps of Dick Clark, just being a sort of a moderately okay-looking guy who can keep things moving. There's always been a place for that, and I look at him and I go, okay, I know a couple of people like this. There are other people out there who have sort of, that's sort of their gig. I've never heard them say anything particularly interesting or noteworthy. Haven't really seen them produce anything. Haven't really ever seen them, say, well, that was an outstanding moment of broadcasting. I've never seen it, but they get you through the thing and from point A to point B, and they keep the needle moving, and they're okay. So, to me, Ryan Seacrest is that guy.
I guess that's kind of all you need for a game show host, right?
I suppose. I guess that's really what it is. Seacrest noted that the new hosting gig comes as a full circle moment, and revealed that Vanna White would continue on the show. Now, there's great news. Let's have a
that was going to be my next question.
Yeah. That's right. She's going. Yeah. How could you? I wonder how long she will stay
until she's fed up with Seacrest.
That's right. So,
she says,
"Finally,
Vanna out."
I'm getting rid of Pat Sajak, and now I get somebody new. Oh, it's Ryan Seacrest. Oh, wish you told me that earlier. Seacrest. Many people probably don't know this, but one of my first jobs was hosting a little game show called Click for Merv Griffin 25 years ago. So this is truly a full circle moment for me, and I'm grateful to Sony for the opportunity. I can't wait to continue the tradition of spinning the wheel. I'm turning the page. Working alongside the great Vanna White. Seacrest's appointment as the next host comes 2 weeks after Sajak announces retirement. Before the 48-year-old media mogul became a household name, he found a mentor in broadcasting in legend Dick Clark, who helped propel his career from standing on the sidelines to shining in the spotlight. He really did. I mean, he really studied the career of Dick Clark. And that's what happened. He knows a little bit about music, knows a little bit about pop culture, puts on an interesting suit. Dresses well coiffed, and it works. Seacrest not only hosts multiple shows across a variety of platforms, he works behind the scenes as the producer of some of the biggest television shows. His estimated net worth Why would you even need this gig?
Yeah, he's worth millions and millions.
$450 million dollars, according to Celebrity Net Worth. That's what he's worth. I don't know how accurate that is, but worth $450 million. Why do you need to go and grind these out?
Yeah, I think he just likes to see his face on TV.
That could be it. Sajak announced he's leaving back on June 12th. It's been a wonderful ride. He's hanging up his host hat. Well, that time has come. I've decided it's our 41st season, which begins in September, will be my last. So we're going to be hearing an awful lot.
Oh yeah, about
Pat Sajak and the untimely arrival of Ryan Seacrest.
I had to look this up while you mentioned that when he said he started his career, or one of the first things was hosting a game show called Click. So I had to look that up to see what that was all about. It's completely ridiculous looking. Yeah, a little bit of Seacrest there. It didn't last long, and I can tell why. It's extremely 90s. Good grief.
Yeah. Well, there you go. They didn't even call and ask me to try it. I mean, it's not too much, really. Could you see me? And now, fortune! All right. Well, now you have it. The question, the burning issue of the day has been answered. Who will replace Pat Sajak? It will be Ryan Seacrest. We couldn't be more excited.
Yay.
Go, Ryan. Woo. 49 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things that we see from time to time, well, way too often, is this. Let's say that you go to a financial advisor and they say, hey, you need to set up an investment portfolio, and what we need to do is we need to have some of your money in stocks or mutual funds or ETFs or something like that, and we need to have something fixed or guaranteed in your investment portfolio that'll protect you against the market downturns. And quite often what they're talking about, they may not use this word, but often what they're talking about is putting your money into some sort of an annuity, like an indexed annuity or something like that, or a fixed annuity. And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, let's put your money in both of these, which sounds really good. And you should. And typically in an investment portfolio, you do want to have fixed investments and stocks as well in the portfolio to protect against inflation. But here's what happens when you manage a portfolio. Let me use a really, really simple example. Let's say I have a portfolio and I got stocks in there. Then I have my fixed income, my bonds in the portfolio as well. And let's say I have half my money in each. When stocks really do well, what we want to do is they're going to be overweighted in my portfolio. I own too much of them because they've done well compared to bonds. It was supposed to be half and half, and now maybe it's 70% stocks and 30% bonds, let's say, or something like that. So I want to sell some of this and buy some of that to bring it back to 50-50 and back and forth throughout time. Well, the problem is when you're managing a portfolio and rebalancing in that way, bringing it back to the original portfolio mix of half and half in my example, I'm going to have to incur a trading cost or a commission or a back-end surrender with the annuity. It doesn't make any sense to use that product in this particular manner. Why do people do it? Well, the reason quite often is this. Commissions are very high with these products. And a lot of firms, they actually require their advisors to recommend a certain amount of annuities for every person that walks in the door. Now, typically annuities are used for a different purpose. They were actually designed for a totally different purpose. And that was distribution toward the end of life. When somebody looks like they're going to run out of money, they're annuitized. Now, let me tell you something. One study showed there was only like 5% of annuities are ever used in that fashion. Most often they're sold as an accumulation vehicle like this, and they were never really designed for that purpose. If you want to learn more, Call us for a free 15-minute phone call or go to our website, paulwinkler.com. The number 615-851-1950 or paulwinkler.com. We don't do anything on commission, and we like to rail against these types of things and help investors do what is in their best interest. paulwinkler.com.
The Supreme Court with an important ruling today. Governor Lee responds to covenant families who want the manifesto kept private and some potentially dangerous mosquitoes right here in Nashville. Those stories and more coming up 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
So we did figure out who was the original host of Wheel of Fortune, and I did remember this. It was Chuck Woolery.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that. I think I knew it as well, but I'd forgotten. Yeah, he was the host, and I found this little clip of the intro to one of the first seasons of Wheel of Fortune back in October of 1980.
I guess when it was on the mornings on the network. Yeah.
Oh, now he's introducing his presenter or whatever, and it's not Vanna White.
Not Vanna White, huh?
Yeah. Susie somebody.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he goes into the introductions.
Well, Chuck Woolery is I think he's still around. I haven't. We used to interview him all the time at WMAL in Washington when I worked there, and he lives in Texas, or at least he did live in Texas. He has a lake house, and he literally, to go fishing, opens up a hatch door in his house and goes down, and the boat is down below in a garage.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
He goes out onto the lake and fishes all day long, comes back in, climbs up the ladder, back in the house.
Nice. I guess he's done all right for himself.
He's done all right. Yeah. Chuck Woolery ain't hurting, that's for sure. 57 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. All right, let's talk about Everseal. What is it? It's a sealant for concrete and wood, an exterior sealant for wood and concrete. And the whole idea here is that it's been used in industrial applications for just a long time. But the folks over at Everseal figured out a way to use this at your home or your business in a way that is affordable. So here's what happens. The process starts with a deep cleaning. They come in, they go clean up your wood and your concrete to make it look as new as it could ever look. And then they use their patented sealant, which absorbs all the way through the wood or concrete to become a permanent part of your wood and concrete to prevent any further deterioration for the next, and I'm not making this number up, 30 to 50 years. That's right. You don't have to think about it for 30 to 50 years, a 25-year warranty. And so this is what you need, right? If that sounds like something you want for your house, think about all the money you'll save. You don't have to go out and seal the concrete or seal the wood every year, year after year, after year after year. If you can go 30, 40 years, you saved a ton of money by just doing it one time. Just to learn more, call the folks over at Everseal. Steve Nelson and the guy over there will answer your question. 844-EVER-USA. That's 844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 90 degrees, and Middle Tennessee in an excessive heat watch. That's in effect all day through today. This week is only going to get hotter and probably more humid, so stay shaded and hydrated. Complete weather forecast and the latest traffic report coming up in just a few minutes, starting with some breaking news right here in Tennessee. Horace Williams III, the man accused in the deadly 2018 robbery and shooting that happened outside the Cobra Bar in East Nashville, has now been found guilty on all charges, including first-degree murder. And those charges also include felony murder, especially aggravated robbery, and attempted first-degree murder. We'll keep you updated with that right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Now going over to a ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court today. It says states do not have unchecked authority to redraw election maps. They sided with a group of North Carolina voters who challenged Republican lawmakers, arguing that the congressional redistricting plan that they had passed was unreviewable by the state Supreme Court. Had it gone the other way, it could have handed state legislators more power to dictate and run federal elections. In an update in Russia, Russian mercenary leader Evgeny Prigozhin is now in Belarus after aborting his mutiny on Vladimir Putin. Prigozhin said that he was not seeking to depose Putin, but instead was acting to protect his Wagner mercenary force from being destroyed by the defense ministry. Right now in Tennessee, Governor Lee spoke today on how he would respond to Covenant school families who want the manifesto to be kept private. Here he is with the audio captured by News 2.
I mean, it's hard to express to the parents opinions about anything. They alone know the pain that their families have endured and the difficulty and struggles of that. I can't understand that. I can't understand that it is a very bad situation for them. I continue to believe that Tennesseans need clarity about this.
And a special legislative session on public safety is set to begin on August 21st, although the governor has not officially called it yet. And right now in the volunteer state, the Metro Health Department tested a batch of mosquitoes in Nashville. They were positive for the West Nile virus. And the good news here is that only about 20% of people who get infected with this virus ever actually feel symptoms. Usually that's just a fever, but can rarely turn into a fatal neurological illness. And the best way to stay safe from the virus is not to get bit. So insect repellent, long sleeves, pants when outside for long periods of time are going to be recommended. And any standing water outside of your home will attract the little buggers as well. And now a positive identification made on human remains found in a remote area of San Bernardino County, California. The remains are those of a career actor. Alex Stone reports.
Julian Sands was in a long list of movies and TV shows, including Dexter, Warlock, and A Room with a View. He disappeared in January when he went for a hike on Mount Baldy, a mountainous area that became socked in with snow and freezing conditions. Multiple searches turned up no signs of Sands. They were hampered by avalanche dangers. But over the weekend, hikers found human remains. Those have now been identified as Sands. An autopsy will be done to try to determine how he died. Julian Sands was 65 years old.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It's 5:07, making 5:08 on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your fretted radio buddy, and this is The Drive for Tuesday, June 27th. Hour number 3. You ready for hour number 3? I'm too. Let's get see. You never know what awaits you when we open up the microphone. Sometimes it's a complete surprise to me as well. No, it's not either. Hours and hours and hours and hours of preparation go into the hours and hours of time go into preparation for the show. And maybe I'll be able to get a complete sentence out here in a bit. Who knows? I want to take you to the White House briefing room yesterday, where there was a question in the air for Karine Jean-Pierre. They wanted to ask her the question about it's all about this whole thing regarding Hunter Biden and the shakedown text message on WhatsApp, which is supposed to be encoded, but we know that it is legitimate. I'll tell you how we know that in a bit. From Hunter Biden, where he's basically trying to shake down a Chinese Communist Party official who is in the energy game for what appears to be money. I mean, it's almost like dialogue out of The Godfather. It says, "Oh, Shang, we want you to do that thing that you promised to do. We're a little disappointed that the thing that you promised to do has not been done. Have you done anything about the thing yet? And Dad and I are sitting here, and we're talking about how disappointed we are that you didn't do the thing you promised. And if you don't do the thing that's promised, well, we have long memories, and me and Dad, we're going to sit here by the phone, and we're going to wait until we hear back from you." That's maybe paraphrased a little bit, but that's basically what it was. It was a shakedown call. And he was letting him know that me and Dad are sitting here, and we want you to do that thing. Well, I don't know what that thing was. Interestingly, a few days later, in one of Hunter Biden's many bank accounts, there was a $5 million deposit. Coincidence? Oh, it might be. But the thing that everybody was asking about is, well, why would he ever, if Joe Biden makes the case that he doesn't know anything about his son's business dealings, this would seem to contradict that. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked this time and time and time again yesterday in the briefing room.
I appreciate the question. I believe my colleague at the White House Counsel has answered this question already. I just answered the question.
Yes or no, was the president involved in the shakedown attempt?
Stephen,
Yes or no?
Stephen, I just answered the question. It's not up to you how I answer the question. I just answered the question. You just asked me, does my statement change? I just told you nothing has changed. That's answering the question.
No, you're not answering the question, but I love this part.
Stephen, I just answered the question. It's not up to you how I answer the question.
Yeah. Yeah. You get to ask the questions. I get to answer them. But then the press corps always gets the last word. Why would you ever pick a fight with people who buy ink by the barrel, is the old saying? I mean, you get irritated with me, and you have your moment here in the briefing room, but you're just going to come across looking small and petty. Why would you ever answer a question like that? I think what you simply say without, she gets defensive. Not that I need to give her any advice. But what you do in a situation like that is you say, we have no comment. And then you just sit there. Did you hear me? I said, we don't have any comment. That's what you do. But I mean, they're not smart enough to do that. But they're asking the question. And what's interesting is it's not the regular people that you'd expect to ask these questions. There's a people out there that normally wouldn't touch this story with a 10-foot pole are now asking questions about it. And it's a fair question. The President of the United States repeatedly has said, I didn't know anything about my son's business dealings. Yet here is a message that seems to suggest from Hunter Biden to someone he was shaking down that Dad is sitting right here with me, and we are not happy with you. We are not happy with you because you have not done that thing you promised to do. And we want you in Zhang, in no uncertain terms, we want you, or maybe this one other guy whose name also starts with a Z. We want you, I can't remember the names, or him to get on this right away. And while we're sitting here, I want you to know Dad and I are sitting here waiting on your phone call now. Well, I mean, you can't say that and not expect that the guy's going to call and, hey, let me speak to the vice president. I mean, you can't lay that out there if it's not true. Oh, he's not really here. I just made that up. Well, that's what they're trying to make him sound like now. Hunter Biden's attorney confirms that the WhatsApp text shaking down a Chinese businessman is real. Chris Clark, Hunter Biden's attorney, according to Breitbart, admitted that the 2017 WhatsApp text demanding money from a CCP-linked businessman while sitting next to his dad was indeed Hunter Biden's message. Well, it came off of his iCloud account. On Friday, one day after the House Ways and Means Committee released IRS whistleblower testimony that alleged Hunter Biden demanded payment using proximity to his father as a cudgel, Clark released a statement. That's a word I don't know. Will you look at CUDGEL? It's not often I come across a word that I don't know, but that's a word I don't know. Cudgel. Demanded payment using proximity to his father as a cudgel. You got it?
Yeah. I'm trying to relate it to that. The definition is a short, heavy club.
Well, as to sort of back up his threat.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that. Clark released a statement acknowledging the whistleblower's revelation. The statement tried to distance President Joe Biden from the scandal by suggesting this was Hunter Biden being Hunter. And by the way, he was on crack cocaine at the time, so he's unpredictable. Here's the exact quote. The DOJ investigation covered a period in which there was a time of turmoil and addiction for my client. Any verifiable words or actions of my client in the midst of a horrible addiction are solely his own and have no connection to anyone in this family. So he's saying that basically what he's trying to say there is everything that you find in that laptop, you have to wonder whether it's truth or if it's just Hunter Biden speaking through his addiction. That's a nice way to try to get rid of a big piece of evidence. I suspect that the old man was there. I suspect they had this conversation, and I have a feeling that it got their attention because $5.1 million landed in Hunter Biden's bank account within the next 10 days. And then there's all kinds of information about, the bank accounts and the shell corporations. Then the IRS whistleblower said, well, there's an easy way for us to figure this out. I love this part of the story. There's an easy way for us to figure out whether or not what's in this email is true or not. All right? Both men, both the president and the vice president, have cell phones. Cell phones track what? Your GPS location. We can go back and find out where both men were when this text message was read. Were they sitting together? Or were they in different towns? Were they in different places? Or were they actually just right there together, like in the same room, in the same house? And that'd be a very easy way to verify whether or not what has been said in this email is true or not. And as soon as the investigators from the IRS and the FBI said, that's what we want to do, they said, oh, well, we're not going to do that. They shut it down. All right. And then the big question is, how much more is there going to be done about the tax evasion and all this other stuff regarding Hunter Biden from the attorney in Delaware? Because the prosecutor who was prosecuting him has told 6 witnesses that he could not charge Hunter Biden outside of the state of Delaware. The federal prosecutor tasked with investigating Hunter Biden told at least 6 witnesses last year that he lacked authority to charge his first son outside of Delaware and was denied special counsel status, according to an IRS whistleblower, and now the House Judiciary Committee wants to talk to both of them. Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss made the shocking disclosure at an October 7th, 2022 meeting with top IRS and FBI officials, contradicting sworn testimony from Attorney General Merrick Garland. IRS Supervisory Agent Gary Shapley told the White House Ways and Means Committee last month. So Weiss says, I tried to take these cases outside of Delaware and bring them because I could not bring them in Delaware, and I was shut down. And the Attorney General says, no, you weren't. And he says, yes, I was. No, you weren't. Yes, I was. Somebody's lying. Somebody's not telling the truth. Either Weiss is telling us a lie or Merrick Garland is telling us a lie, but somebody's not telling us the truth, and that's a pretty important thing to figure out. He surprised us by telling us on the charges, I'm not the deciding official on whether charges are going to be filed. Shapley recounted, this is the IRS whistleblower, at his May 26th testimony, which the committee released on Thursday. He then shocked us with the earth-shattering news that the Biden-appointed D.C. U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves would not allow him to charge in his district, added Shapley, who said Graves' refusal to prosecute meth and Hunter, now 53, would not face tax charges related to foreign income from Burisma and a scheme to evade his income taxes through a partnership with a convicted felon in 2014 and 2015. Wow. This thing could be over as far as bringing charges against Hunter Biden. But not so much over for Joe Biden if you can put him there. Hunter Biden investigation, this is from the Washington Examiner. GOP lawmakers will eye testimony from David Weiss. Republicans are preparing to drill down on allegations that U.S. Attorney David Weiss faced roadblocks in the Hunter Biden investigation from the Justice Department under Attorney General Merrick Garland. Both Weiss and Garland have denied the claims, but two IRS whistleblowers who spent years investigating Biden told Congress that Weiss, appointed by former President Donald Trump, made several attempts to bring charges against Biden in jurisdictions overseen by U.S. attorneys appointed by his father, and the Biden appointees allegedly blocked Weiss. It was one of many serious allegations the whistleblowers leveled against the Justice Department and the IRS, contained in lengthy transcript of interviews given both gave to the House Ways and Means Committee. So let me see if I can make sure you're with me here. Weiss is investigating in Delaware. The Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, says he's got full authority to go anywhere he wants to go. And he had asked, well, I'd like to be a special prosecutor. He said, no, you don't need that. You have full authority to do anything you want to do. So they go to the U.S. Attorney in the D.C. area and said, we'd like to bring a case here that has to do with Burisma Holdings. And the U.S. Attorney, a Biden appointee, said, no, that's not going to happen. Not here. Well, see, so he didn't have full authority, right? So you got Weiss, who said, I did not have full authority. You got the Attorney General saying he had full authority to do anything he wanted to do. And we kept hands off. I've got a soundbite of that somewhere where you've got, I keep these things because I want to make sure that I can hold people accountable. Let's see if I can find it here in just a moment. But I've got this actual soundbite of the Attorney General, Merrick Garland. Here we go. Is this it? I think this is it.
As I said, from the moment of my appointment as Attorney General, I would leave this matter in the hands of the United States Attorney, who was appointed by the previous president and assigned to this matter by the previous administration, that he would be given full authority to decide the matter as he decided was appropriate. And that's what he's done. And if you have any further questions about that matter, you should direct them to the U.S. Attorney to explain his decision.
There you go. Well, I think we're going to have that conversation. More in just a moment, 22 minutes after the hour, 5 o'clock. You know, this is one of those things where I think, honestly, radio does a sort of a disservice because you can't see how beautiful these pole barns from Stoltzco are. They really are quite amazing. If you haven't been to their website, take a look at it, Stoltzco.com, Stoltzco.com. And just take a look at some of the pole barns. exceptional quality and craftsmanship, fair prices. They could build you a new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. And that is the Stoltzco difference. You can use them for just about anything. It could be a classic tool and work barn, a garage, or even a place to live. Flexibility is the key. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality, and they do not cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. So go to this website and take a look at all of the pole barns, the things that they can do. This is not your granddad's pole barn. I'm telling you, it's not. These are really sharp. Stoltzco, 615-622-5992. That's 615-622-5992. You can go to stoltzco.com and be sure to tell them that your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
A Supreme Court decision decided the fate of how elections are run here in the U.S. NES helping out Tennesseans with the heat this week, and a woman hit by a train right here in the Volunteer State today. I'll have the details at 5:30. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
26 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Just finishing up the Hunter Biden story very quickly. According to the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, there will be more information about Hunter Biden coming out in the very near future. Very near future. Made the revelation while discussing recent denials by Attorney General Merrick Garland over the allegations made by two IRS whistleblowers who said the Department of Justice stood in the way of the investigation of Hunter Biden. That's going to be a hell of an interview when we finally get Merrick Garland and we can sit down and pin him down and ask him some of these questions. So we'll hear, again, more evidence coming out. And then there's this, very quickly, FBI Director Christopher Wray. You know, the question about how much has the FBI been weaponized. It's not a question of if, but how much. He will appear before the House Judiciary Committee on July 12th. A source familiar with the scheduling confirmed to the Daily Caller. Republicans on the committee have criticized the Bureau at length for allegedly conducting politicized investigations. including Operation Crossfire Hurricane. And members are also likely to ask about investigations into former President Donald Trump and his first son, Hunter Biden, who recently, wow, they got that story wrong. Former President Joe Biden and his first son, Hunter Biden, who were recently pleaded guilty to tax misdemeanors. Very quickly, also, while I have just a moment left in this half hour, the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, and his documents down at Mar-a-Lago. There have been an allegation that he was captured in a recorded interview, waving around some of these documents in his office, which would suggest perhaps they were not very secure. Here is that audio, which has now been obtained and has been released upon the world by CNN.
We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know. Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time, you know.
she'd send it, no, she'd send it to Anthony Weiner, the pervert. By the way, isn't that incredible? Though?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it, and you know, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify.
figure out a yeah.
See, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, you know, but this is classified.
Now we have a
Well, I mean, that's pretty interesting. He says, if I were president, I could declassify it, but I can't declassify it now. Means that as he held it in his hand and he was showing this document, and it has to do with a proposed military attack on Iran, just, you know, one of the many complicated top secret documents that might land on a president's desk saying, well, if we ever decide to, here's our thoughts on that, how we might go about it. Not saying we're going to do it. No decision was made, but his whole idea was, well, okay, you know, if I'm holding this now and I look at it and I'm saying it's a classified document, that means I did not declassify it preemptively. One way or the other, this whole conversation will be troublesome. I've heard two takes on it. Number one take is that it was released to hurt his case by people who don't like him. Number two, that Donald Trump released it because every time something comes up that's bad about Donald Trump, the end result is his numbers go up. So who knows? I'm not smart enough to figure it out. 30 minutes now past the hour, 5 o'clock on Super Talk.
.5:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 90 degrees and most of Middle Tennessee in an excessive heat watch all day today. The week will get hotter and more humid as we go along, so get prepared. Complete weather forecast and the latest traffic report on the way. A Supreme Court decision today making clear that state legislatures don't have unchecked power over federal elections. Lindsay Watts.
The Supreme Court has delivered a strong rejection of a fringe legal theory that's been supported by some conservatives that threaten to upend election laws nationwide and expand the power of state legislatures. It's a key decision ahead of the 2024 presidential race, where new legal challenges over state voting laws are expected. The court's decision makes clear that state courts still have a role to play in making sure elections are fair and legal, and state legislatures are not unlimited in their power.
And back to that hot weather here in Tennessee. NES trying to help Tennesseans this week. The electric service company has announced that they will not be disconnecting anyone's power up to July 4th due to this extreme heat in the mid-state. NES recommends keeping the thermostat no lower than 78 degrees and to try to not use appliances during peak power times and to use the microwave instead of the oven if possible. And those garage doors being closed will also help keep the cool in. Right now in Tennessee, a woman was flown to a hospital after her car was hit by a train in Williamson County this morning. It was a single-car train that hit her red Ford Explorer and pushed it around 500 feet down the tracks. That woman is now in critical condition at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are upcoming. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
All right, has some exciting news for many of you who've lived here a long time. You know that Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee, the place to go for your European car repairs for now 24 years. And we've watched them grow. Well, I don't know about you. I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, the folks at Eurofix are very now proud to announce their 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. That's right. Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in a barn in the backyard of a single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations, repairing thousands of cars each month. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free home loaner, a free loaner car, rather, with every repair. The number is this, 844-EUROFIX, 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com. .537, you're listening to The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 on this 27th day of June, and it's going to get hot this week. I was just looking, I've got my number. My numbers come from bucolic, Watertown, where it's a little cooler than I think it is, and when you get down to Nashville, it's always a little hotter, more concrete, more asphalt, etc. But even just looking at mine, I've got... today, 85, tomorrow, 88, Thursday, 94, Friday, 99, wow, Saturday, 99, Sunday, 92.
That's interesting because I'm looking at my my outlook here for this Midtown area here in Nashville, and it's showing 93 on Thursday, 94 on Friday, 92 on Saturday. So it's cooler than what you're showing, which is interesting.
Well, I'm a little further south, a hair bit south. I don't know. Let me look. I have many. When you come to my phone, you'll find it's got a lot of apps.
And of course, that makes a difference where you're getting the info from.
And I'm getting mine from Watertown. You're getting yours from. I would have thought downtown would have been hotter.
Same.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
May just be
Saturday,
the source that I'm getting it from.
Wednesday, 80. And Wednesday tomorrow, 89, 91 Thursday, 97 Friday, 96 Saturday, 97 Sunday. I don't know. And just hot. So I guess here's the bottom line. It's going to be hotter than it has been.
Mm-hmm.
Not as hot as it will be, but this is nothing to take lightly. I always feel really dumb saying that to people, but I'm honestly, you'd be shocked and stunned and amazed at how many people don't know or don't think about doing the right thing when it gets that hot, and how quickly it can take you. It can take you down hard.
Especially if you are used to being indoors and in the air conditioning, and you don't work outside a lot. Right. Yeah, it can sneak up on you fast.
It can sneak up on you fast. And so, the most important thing is to stay out of the direct heat if you can. If you have to be out in it, make sure that you're hydrated. I mean, if you do those two things, you should be largely okay. But, this is heat that can hurt you. I was looking back. I wonder what the temperature is in my hometown of Odessa today, because when I looked at it earlier, it was like really hot, and I can't even get it to do that for me now. There we go. Well, anyway, I can't do it, but it was in like 102, 103 category.
Oof.
And in Dallas, I saw a map that said it's going to be 110.
That's just wrong. Oh,
that's just
boy.
wrong. And with at least it's a moist heat.
Yeah, you got that going for you.
I mean, let me see if I can find it. What I was looking at. Hot temperatures, Dallas. Okay, here we go. 100 degrees right now in Dallas. 100 degrees. And I'm trying to see how it goes. 10-day. Here's the 10-day Dallas forecast. Oh, I'm glad I'm not. 103 tomorrow. And I got to see 103 tomorrow, 102 Thursday, 100 on Friday. And then it cools down to a balmy 97.
Oh, wow. Bring a light sweater.
Mm-hmm. I know.
I told Pamela Fur to get a sun hat because she's going down near the border in southern Texas this week. She's
going down. She's going down deep into the border. Yes. She's going down to McAllen, I think.
Yes,
yeah.
I believe so.
Well, it's you can't go much further south in Texas than McAllen without getting wet. I can tell you that for sure. McAllen is hot. I remember when I was a kid, they thought, I was going to a Baptist church in Odessa, Texas, and I thought, what kind of punishment can we inflict upon all of our church youth this summer? And so we decided that we would go and we would save souls on the border in McAllen. Oh, Lord of mercy, it was hot.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I had a family that lived in McAllen, and I went there one summer. It's like surface,
you were in McAllen for a whole summer?
Well, not the whole summer, for about a week. It's like surface of the sun, man.
Yeah, but even looking at this, when I say Dallas is going to be 103 today, the current humidity in Dallas at this hour is 53%.
Oh, gosh.
100 degrees and 53. That's just outrageous. That's nuts. Anyway, long story short, be very careful as you go about doing the things that you need to do in the days ahead, because it is going to be really hot. This is a fascinating story, and what this story is about is not the same for a lot of people. Is not the same thing it is for me. But I find it interesting because there's all this talk now about should reparations be paid to people who come from slave. Their family were once slaves, and should reparations be paid is the question. And who should pay it? This is pretty interesting stuff. Reuters investigation reveals every living president is a descendant of slaveholders except one. All right, now think of the living presidents that we have. Who's out there? I mean, I guess Jimmy Carter's still kicking. We got Bill Clinton. We got George W. Bush. We've got Barack Obama. Well, I mean, obviously the first one you go to, well, it's got to be Barack Obama. He probably didn't come from slaveholders. You'd be wrong, according to this story. A new examination conducted by Reuters has found that of the 6 living U.S. presidents, 5 are descendants of slaveholders. 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, was found not to have slaveholder ancestry. Jimmy Carter, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden were found to have had slaveholding ancestors. Obama's ancestor, who enslaved others, though, were on his mother's side. Trump's family immigrated to the U.S. after the abolition of slavery, with his grandfather moving from the U.S. from Germany in 1885. Census records viewed by Reuters showed that Biden's great-great-great-grandfather enslaved a 14-year-old in 1850. Politico found that another third great-grandfather, Jesse Robinette, enslaved people in Maryland's Allegheny County, according to an 1800 census. An examination also found that Supreme Court Justices Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, 11 governors, 100 legislators from the 117th Congress are descendants of slaveholders. Lawmakers who descended from slaves include Republican Senator Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, James Lankford, Elizabeth Warren, Tammy Duckworth, Jean Shaheen, and Maggie Hassan. Now, that's fascinating stuff. I mean, of all of the presidents, I would have said it had to be Barack Obama, but it's actually Donald Trump, who came here, his parents, whose descendants came to the United States after the Civil War. So basically, there's that. Supreme Court is expected to rule this week on a couple of really big cases. I think we got 10 cases out there that could be pretty big. They saved the best for last, or the biggest ones for last. I don't know why. I guess they want. I mean, how long do they have these things decided, sitting on a shelf, waiting to go? Could they possibly be doing rewrites at the last hour? I mean, we don't know these things at the Supreme Court because honestly, it's all very secretive what happens there. I would like to think that they get these things done, they bundle them up and put them on a shelf and say that we'll release this one on this day and this one on this day and this one on this day, so you can have some thoughtful conversation about them as they come. But I don't know. I think is it possible they're in there doing a last-minute rewrite, still negotiating before it comes out? I don't know. It'd be fascinating to know, wouldn't it? All eyes are on the Supreme Court. 10 cases, including President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness program, as well as 2 dealing with affirmative action. The student loan forgiveness program, look, I'm going to be shocked, stunned, and amazed if indeed the high court does not knock that back, except that there's 2 things that have to be decided. Number one, do the people who have brought the cases have standing? If they don't have standing, then you can't go forward. So, if it is agreed that they have standing, then there will be a ruling. Or it'll be sent back to a lower court or something like that. I think that everybody understood. I mean, I think everybody who understands anything about the law had a pretty good understanding that what Joe Biden was doing was not constitutional. He did not have the authority to do this on his own accord, to simply say, yeah, you have a loan. Oh, you took out a loan? Don't worry about paying that back. That'd be fine. We'll take care of it. $400 billion later, we'll take care of it. I don't think anybody realized that, nobody with any serious legal chops thinks that that's constitutional. Chief among them was former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, who said, I don't think this is legal. I think you have to go to Congress to ask them about that. So we'll see what happens. If it gets hung up, it's going to be because they haven't yet figured out whether or not there is one of these different people who brought suit have standing. If that becomes a problem, then the case becomes a problem. But I think that the Supreme Court's going to rule, and probably wouldn't be surprised if it was absolutely unanimous. Honestly, I believe that's how egregious a decision it was for the president to say that. Then the other thing that they're doing would be affirmative action, and you got Harvard University and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and the idea there was that they wanted to have the ability to say yes or no as to admission based on racial profiling, basically. The 9 justices will decide whether colleges and universities can continue to use race in the admissions process. In some cases, you might think, okay, for minority students, this works out to their advantage, but actually it really works in very mysterious ways. For example, in Harvard, I remember reading, there have been lawsuits filed about this forever, and this may be the culmination of that, is that Harvard said, well, you know what, we can't give it these admission, we can't give you admission based solely on your ability to do the work, which I think is the only thing you should judge. A person shows up and they've got incredible grades and have accomplished much. That ought to be all that matters, and their race ought to not be a figure in it. But it is. And that's why in some cases, I think it was at Harvard, they said we can't take as many Asian students as we get applications for, even if they're qualified. That ought not be right. That doesn't sound right to me. We ought to make these decisions based on qualifications, and it seems to me that the Supreme Court might be prepared to do that and say that race should not be a factor when it comes to the admission of colleges. You got 2 suits dealing there. The precedent that's controlling right now gives a limited ability for schools to consider race and admissions, even on its own terms, would expire in just a few years. This came after Justice O'Connor said this shouldn't be necessary for more than 25 years. And we're almost to that point. So this will be a big decision as well. And look for that to come out today, tomorrow, maybe the next day, out of Washington, out of the High Court. Anything coming out of the High Court now is pretty much going to be news. 5:50 now on Super Talk 99.7.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things that we see from time to time, well, way too often, is this. Let's say that you go to a financial advisor and they say, hey, you need to set up an investment portfolio, and what we need to do is we need to have some of your money in stocks or mutual funds or ETFs or something like that, and we need to have something fixed or guaranteed in your investment portfolio that'll protect you against the market downturns. And quite often what they're talking about, they may not use this word, but often what they're talking about is putting your money into some sort of an annuity, like an indexed annuity or something like that, or a fixed annuity. And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, let's put your money in both of these, which sounds really good. And you should. And typically in an investment portfolio, you do want to have fixed investments and stocks as well in the portfolio to protect against inflation. But here's what happens when you manage a portfolio. Let me use a really, really simple example. Let's say I have a portfolio and I got stocks in there. Then I have my fixed income, my bonds in the portfolio as well. And let's say I have half my money in each. When stocks really do well, what we want to do is they're going to be overweighted in my portfolio. I own too much of them because they've done well compared to bonds. It was supposed to be half and half, and now maybe it's 70% stocks and 30% bonds, let's say, or something like that. So I want to sell some of this and buy some of that to bring it back to 50-50 and back and forth throughout time. Well, the problem is when you're managing a portfolio and rebalancing in that way, bringing it back to the original portfolio mix of half and half in my example, I'm going to have to incur a trading cost or a commission or a back-end surrender with the annuity. It doesn't make any sense to use that product in this particular manner. Why do people do it? Well, the reason quite often is this. Commissions are very high with these products. And a lot of firms, they actually require their advisors to recommend a certain amount of annuities for every person that walks in the door. Now, typically annuities are used for a different purpose. They were actually designed for a totally different purpose. And that was distribution toward the end of life. When somebody looks like they're going to run out of money, they're annuitized. Now, let me tell you something. One study showed there was only like 5% of annuities are ever used in that fashion. Most often they're sold as an accumulation vehicle like this, and they were never really designed for that purpose. If you want to learn more, call us for a free 15-minute phone call or go to our website, paulwinkler.com. The number 615 851-1950 or paulwinkler.com. We don't do anything on commission, and we like to rail against these types of things and help investors do what is in their best interest. paulwinkler.com.
It is 6 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 89 degrees and an excessive heat watch in effect for the rest of the day in most of Middle Tennessee. And it's only going to get hotter this week. Got a forecast and a traffic report coming up. And we're going to stick with that weather because the NES is trying to help Tennesseans this week. The electric service company has announced they will not be disconnecting anyone's power up to July 4th due to the extreme heat in the mid-state. NES recommends keeping that thermostat no lower than 78 degrees. And to try to not use appliances during peak power times. And the garage doors being closed will also help keep that cool in. Right now in Tennessee, Governor Lee spoke today on how he would respond to Covenant school families who want the manifesto to be kept private. Here he is with that audio captured by News 2.
I mean, it's hard to express to the parents opinions about anything. They alone know the pain that their families have endured and the difficulty and struggles of that. I can't understand that. I can understand that it is a very bad situation for them. I continue to believe that Tennesseans need clarity about this.
A special legislative session on public safety is set to begin on August 21st, although the governor has not officially called it yet. Crime in Tennessee. A woman allegedly assaulted police officers while being arrested in South Nashville has happened yesterday. 26-year-old Rachel Haskins drove through a traffic stop, later fled her car on foot, and had to be located with a helicopter while she was hiding in the woods. Haskins opened the back door of the patrol car allegedly by reaching her hand through the window, and she then proceeded to kick both officers in the legs. Then they later had to restrain her to ensure that she did not try to escape again. And a Tennessee legend has died today. Bobby Osborne, one half of the famous Osborne brothers who sang Rocky Top, has passed away today. He co-founded the Bluegrass group alongside his brother Sonny and premiered the act in Knoxville in the early 50s. The group became a member of the Grand Ole Opry in 1964 and was inducted into the International Bluegrass Hall of Honor in 1994. And that song, Rocky Top, was first played by the Tennessee's Pride of the Southland Band in 1972 during a halftime show against Alabama. Osborne was 91 years old. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good evening, everyone. It's 6 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair for our fourth and final hour on this Tuesday, June 27th. Tomorrow, in the 4 o'clock hour, a couple of good interviews. Want to make mention of it. We have a regular appointment with Pete Hegseth, and as far as I know, that it's on schedule. We'll have him in at 4:35. At 4:05, we'll be speaking to Bill Haggerty, senator from the state of Tennessee. And it's always good to have. I must say I enjoy my conversations with Senator Haggerty. I always walk away having learned something, and I just think he's a pretty good for explaining stuff. That he has a good sense on the process for a freshman senator coming in and just working on the first term. Seems to have a really good understanding of how that city works. I do enjoy those conversations, and that'll be again tomorrow at 4:05. Interesting thing happened or didn't happen today in the White House briefing room. Karine Jean-Pierre did not come forward to do the briefing, and that I don't know. Seems like to me I don't know why. Maybe there's a good reason. Maybe she's a little under the weather. Maybe the kids had something going on at school. I really don't know what the reason is, but I know that she got her butt handed to her the other day in the White House briefing room, and they were trying to get her to answer a very difficult question that she did not want to answer, and it all had to do with that shakedown app message that said Hunter Biden said, well, I'm sitting here with Dad, and Dad and I want you to do this thing for us that you haven't done. We're very disappointed in you because you haven't done the thing that you said you're going to do, and Dad and I are going to sit here by the phone until you call us. And so the question that has been asked of Karine Jean-Pierre is, number one, did that happen? Where was he on that date? Have you asked? No, I haven't asked. Well, will you ask? No, I will not ask. And so the press corps pretty upset with Karine, and Karine pretty upset with the press corps. And it is even, it edges over to here's first of all, here's Karine being sort of jammed up by the reporters in the press briefing room yesterday.
No, are you going to answer the question?
I appreciate the question. I believe my colleague at the White House Counsel has answered this question already. I just answered the question.
No, you didn't. Yes or no, was the president involved in the shakedown attempt?
Stephen,
Yes or no,
Stephen, I just answered the question. It's not up to you how I answer the question. I just answered the question. You just asked me, does my statement change? I just told you nothing has changed. That's answering the question.
And so the same question has been asked of John Kirby, who's a much more experienced person on camera. But this interaction between him and my old reporter buddy James Rosen was pretty epic the other day in the White House briefing room.
The House Ways and Means Committee yesterday released documents, their authenticity nowhere challenged. That included a July 2017 WhatsApp message sent by Hunter Biden to Henry Zhao, a Chinese Communist Party official, which stated in its entirety, and I quote, "I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and now means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows, and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father," unquote. So just a couple of questions about this. First, does this not undermine the president's claim during the 2020 campaign and the reaffirmations of that claim by his two press secretaries since then, that he never once discussed his son's overseas business dealings with him?
No. Now, first of all, can you understand why James Rosen and I used to sit around and have some of the greatest conversations? I mean, the intellect that is exhibited in that question is astonishing. I was always proud to call him my friend. I'm proud to call him. We shared an office together, and we would have discourse like this that would go on for over the course of a whole week. We would pick a topic and we'd just go at it. and you were never better than when you were being challenged by James Rosen. You had to have your stuff together because he's probably one of the brightest people in Washington.
Oh, and I'm not going to comment further on this. I'm not. James, let me save you some. Let me save you some breath. If you're going to ask about this, I am not addressing. I know you do more than I'd like you to have. I am not going to address this issue from this podium. I'm just not going to do
it. and so he paused for about half a second, and when it was clear that the questions were going to continue, he said, "Bye-bye."
I'm not going to do it. Where was the president on the day? Thank you. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
I am out of here. Oh, well, you know, the thing is that the president has gone on record, and it's a fair question to ask why in the world can't we ask you about this? And he's repeatedly, even in the last day or so, has repeatedly said, I have never had any conversation with my son about any business dealing.
I've never discussed my business or their business, my sons or daughters. I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
It's going to be an ugly few days. In the days when I covered the White House, and was in the briefing room on a fairly regular basis, I got to know it, and there was another guy that I knew. I wouldn't say we were best friends. I worked with his wife for a while, and his wife and I were better friends than I was with him. But he was a man who was pretty good about knowing how to dig out a good answer in that environment that you lived in at the White House. He would basically yell at presidents from across the room, and it became sort of a thing. Some people thought at the time it was quite rude. But it really became sort of the standard because you only have an opportunity to get information from the leader of the free world if you can get the leader of the free world's attention. And so Sam Donaldson used to say, Mr. President, and Reagan would, if he didn't want to answer the question, he said, "Sorry, Sam, can't hear you, helicopter," and he'd be on. But more times than not, and by the way, I think Reagan and Donaldson actually, on some level, liked each other. But Reagan would respond. So you've got to ask the question. You've got to ask the hard question because you can ask it 100 times and maybe not get that answer. But on the 101st time you ask it, sometimes you get an answer. So why was Corrine not in the briefing room today? Why was she not there? Why did they send out, their most inexperienced person to do the briefing? Well, I think it's I think it has a little bit to do with being sort of a. Well, it's not going. I don't want to go out there. They're going to ask me the hard question that I don't want to ask. But if you send out a rookie, maybe they'll have a little mercy on their soul. They're not gonna. Sam used to say, we're in a situation right now where the sharks there's blood in the water and the sharks are circling. And that's where we are right now with this Biden White House. There's an awful lot of blood in the water and the sharks are circling and they're going to ask and they're going to ask and they're going to ask. Here's what I will say to you. My experience is when we get in that mode where everybody's asking the same question, everybody's taking a crack at it, they're not likely to have them walk away until they get they're not going to walk away from a question like that until they get something that satisfies them on some level. And I don't know what that is because I think quite frankly the answer to the question is yes, the president was there. Yes, he was sitting right there. Yes, he was fully aware of everything that Hunter Biden was doing. And if he ever admits that, well, then it's Katie bar the door because he's been involved in a shakedown bribery scheme. Here's a story, and these kinds of stories are going to be written now. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre may have thought that she could make it through Monday's briefing without facing more questions dealing with last week's revelation regarding Hunter Biden's business deals, but she would have been wrong. Sure, she did her usual routine of trotting out the National Security Council John Kirby to filibuster the first portion of the Monday briefing, largely taken up with questions about the situation that unfolded with Russia over the weekend. But even a potential coup attempt against Putin couldn't save Biden's spokeswoman from having again to back away from the microphone, flustered as ever, and end the briefing without answering a question. The question came from Philip Wegman of Real Clear Politics, who asked one begging for an answer. Given Hunter Biden's attendance at the recent state dinner for the Indian Prime Minister Modi, what sort of rules are there concerning the ability of the first family to conduct business on the White House grounds? Perhaps unsurprisingly, Jean-Pierre did not want to touch the question with a 10-foot pole. So look, I'm going to again be very mindful. She's very mindful, and they're very careful. Mindful and careful, because this is all connected to a case that the DOJ is currently overseeing, so I'm not going to comment on that specifically, she said, trying to dodge Wegman's question. Not for nothing, concerns about things being connected are very selective at the White House. Attorney General Merrick Garland, whose DOJ had just reached a sweetheart deal agreement with Hunter Biden, was at the state dinner that Hunter also attended. But as you know, and as we have laid out very early in this administration, when it comes to ethics, when it comes to how we all kind of move about and how we all have respect, clearly the government ethics here in this president, this is an administration that's been incredibly transparent. And it's put some very strict rules so I can speak to that. We're very transparent. We're just not going to tell you anything. Sure, I know you want the answer to this question, but we're not going to give it to you. But don't ever forget that we're being incredibly transparent. I can speak to how the president has moved forward in making sure that people who work for him and people are held up to a kind of a strict course of action, but I'm not going to speak to anything else that's related to that case. They're going to have to come out, and they're going to have to say something about this. It's not going to go away. And Karine can go and she can hide back in her little White House press secretary's office and bemoan the fact that, well, they're being mean to me in the briefing room. Listen, if you're going to be the White House press secretary, you've got to come out and you've got to take all questions or give them a way to get a satisfactory answer if that question is not to come from you. The problem with Karine Jean-Pierre is that she's incredibly weak even on a good day. On a day when you have nothing but good news to talk about from your perspective, and you've got a whole portfolio of stuff that you're anxious to get across the goal line, she's not even good on those days. She's just incredibly weak. And I don't know, do you think that the Biden administration, with all of the different entities that they have to answer to, all the different groups that would be upset if the first black female, openly gay member of the press secretary were to get fired, how do you think that would go over? It would go over like your proverbial lead balloon. So she's not going anywhere, and these questions are not going to go anywhere. And watch the press briefings because they're going to be entertaining. Bring popcorn. Get a box of jujubes, whatever you need. I don't know. Do they even sell those anymore?
You mean jujubes?
I used to call them jujubes. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Really, to be honest with you, my favorite movie candy is the ever-popular Milk Dud.
Milk Duds aren't bad. Yeah.
They got their charm. That's right. So, bring your Milk Duds, bring your popcorn. Get ready. These briefings are going to get nothing but better and feisty. And again, I hate to say it, but there's a drip, drip, drip quality to this thing that just doesn't seem to be going away. 20 minutes, make it 21 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. Let's talk about let's talk about Genesis Diamonds. The clock is ticking down on Genesis Diamonds' amazing finance offer. You have until 6 p.m. Saturday to take advantage of the hottest offer of the summer. Here it is, 5 years, 0% interest financing. Get in now and splurge. Maybe treat yourself. Planning to propose? Get that stunning designer engagement ring starting as low as $67 a month. Or a 3-carat lab-grown center diamond, just $99 a month. People have driven for hours to take advantage of this thing and take advantage. You don't want to put off it if it's right there in your backyard. What do you got to lose? Go by, take a look. Buy that pre-owned Rolex or that designer ring or just a simple diamond pendant. Get the incredible price Genesis is famous for, then spread your payments over 5 years. 0.0% interest, 5 years. Absolutely insane. It's the smartest, easiest, best way to buy. Nothing down, no interest for 5 years. But hurry, this incredible offer ends Saturday and will not be extended. Only at Genesis Diamonds on approved credit. See the store for details. You know, there's nothing that has irritated me more than these continued stories that keep popping out. I mean, the other day there was a story that the first 3 people in China to get COVID-19 turned out to be researchers at the Wuhan lab. I mean, is there anybody in the world who doesn't believe that leaked from the lab now? And you had this guy out here trying to make the case, you know, Anthony Fauci.
I represent science.
You got to believe him because he represents science, and he gets very, very defensive if you were to ever suggest that something he was saying was not based on science.
I represent science.
Because he represents science, by gosh. Well, he's now, you know, left the administration, retired, I guess, after many, many years. Now comes this story from the Washington Examiner. I did not know this. Dr. Anthony Fauci was among the most ardent and certainly the most influential advocates of lockdown, school closures, and vaccine mandates during the COVID-19 pandemic. The disastrous consequences of these policies may lead you to think he would be precluded from still being a celebrated public figure, but you would be wrong. In some quarters, for his work, Fauci has just been rewarded with a distinguished faculty position at Georgetown University at its School of Medicine and its School of Public Policy. That's right, one can still land a cushy job in a prestigious school of public policy after recommending policies that resulted in massive learning losses, a major spike in anxiety and depression due to social isolation, and people getting fired from their jobs due to not getting a vaccine that it did not prevent transmission or contraction. To say this is a disgrace is an understatement. That's the way it is in the nation's capital. You walk out of one door and you just go right into another revolving door. It's there for you. That's right. People who make disastrous policy decisions never have to pay. They just move over to a university to infect the next generation of young minds coming along. Not good. Not good. Well, here's some other examples. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Are you ready for this one? Former Mayor Lori Lightfoot named a senior leadership fellow at the Harvard School of Public Health. And last month, the far-left former district attorney of San Francisco, Chesa Boudin, was named the founding executive director of the Criminal Law and Justice Center at the University of California, Berkeley Law School. This is the same guy who got recalled and voted out for being too soft on crime. Oh, joy, the guy who was removed from office because he was too soft on crime is now leading the next batch of lawyers at the Berkeley Law School. That's just wrong. It's just so wrong. Anthony Fauci consistently tried to make the case to the American people, this, well, we're looking at it, but it looks like this came through, the whole COVID-19 occurred naturally in nature. I don't know, what was the big joke? A penguin kissed a dolphin or something happened in nature, and the next thing you know, we've got COVID-19. And nobody who has any kind of understanding of how things work. It's literally, I hate to steal the line from, what's his name, Jon Stewart. Yeah, he said, look, isn't it interesting that the novel coronavirus escaped in a town where they're known for researching novel coronaviruses? Well, really, honestly, it's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And by the way, this market that they keep talking about, only a few blocks from the Wuhan lab. So you could have gone over there to do some shopping at lunch and infected the entire crowd. That's entirely possible. Fauci just needs to step down from the world stage. I remember a time back during the AIDS concerns when we didn't know how to control AIDS like we do today. Fauci was a thoughtful voice in those discussions, and that's where I first knew the name. He was the guy you talked to about AIDS. He was the man who had the ability to explain that in such a good way. But along the way here, something went horribly wrong, and I think we all know what it is. We know that where this disease came from, and we know who was funding research there. And Anthony Fauci ought not be on the payroll over at Georgetown University. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Let me tell you about the folks over at Grace Point Healthcare. They'll deliver medicine affordably at menu-style transparent pricing so you'll know how much it costs before the care is even delivered. They have smart care plans that start at $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year, and because they treat entire families, even newborns, they have family plans as well. Now, you take this smart care plan and marry it with some high-deductible insurance plan that you might have. You could actually save you and your family a lot of money. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible, and it is a military vet-owned practice. They also want to remind you they're aware of seasonal allergies. They know they're here. Grace Point offers allergy testing and treatment so you can enjoy the great outdoors. Why don't you find out more about Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin by calling this number, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit. "38 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair for the next few minutes before we hand it over to the great one, Mark Levin. He'll have stuff to talk about. There's no doubt about that. Well, you know, we are Music City, right? I mean, last time I checked, Nashville is still Music City. We have several places where we consider Music City to have been important in the development of special styles of country music. And one of them, of course, is bluegrass music. Bluegrass music really came along in the 40s, and it became a big musical style. When you started having, bluegrass played down at the Ryman, you knew you were onto something. And in the world of bluegrass, there was a couple of brothers, Bobby and Sonny Osborne, who were well known for putting out all kinds of bluegrass music during the day. They did it their way. I mean, they were the first to try to use drums and electric instruments alongside, traditional bluegrass instruments. But they are best known, I think, perhaps for their rendition, this 1967 rendition, released on Christmas Day in 1967, of a song that if you've been to Tennessee, you've heard a few times. I mean, I'm telling you, there you go. And Bobby Osborne was one half of the famed bluegrass duo, the Osborne Brothers. Helped popularize the song Rocky Top, has died at the age of 91. Sonny Osborne died back in 2021 at the age of 84. And music historians agree that the group's style and music compositions became very influential in the bluegrass genre. They had a very distinctive three-part harmonies, and a lot of bluegrass acts were influenced by that. Let's just listen to that. That's old Bobby right there. It's that last. Can you get that last little bit there? It's like you've got a great song, right? I don't know why. And you say we need to have the banjo just sign off on that song a little bit, because we didn't quite get enough banjo in there during the play. No, I love that. I love it. When I hear that in music, I'm always reminded of Nights in White Satin by the Moody Blues. It always, I don't know why this one reminds me of it, but I mean, you have a situation where at the end of the song, you got I think the London Philharmonic Orchestra, and it's all this amazing orchestration, full orchestra, and I mean, it couldn't have a bigger ending on it, the orchestral ending on it. You could not think of a better way to end it with this huge, big, and I can't play it, but it's just a huge orchestral finish. And then somebody said, though, what we really need is we need to bang the gong there to make sure everybody understands the song. That's right.
Oh, wait, I think let's see.
Da, da. And wait for it.
Yeah.
And
somebody just really wanted to play that.
Somebody wanted
gong,
to.
yeah.
We need a gong to finish that off. And then of course, if you know the album version, it's followed by the Late Night Lament, I think it's called. Breathe deep the gathering gloom.
Oh yeah, it sounds like something that.
Watch lights fade from every room.
Vincent Price.
Bedsitter people, sit back and lament. Another useless energy spent. Impassioned lovers wrestle as one. Lonely child search for love and has none. New mom picks up and succors her son. Senior citizens wish they were young. But then the best part, the part I really remember, is cold-hearted orb that rules the night. Remove these colors from our sight. Red is gray and yellow white. And yet we decide which is right. And which is an illusion. And then you need the gong.
Gong. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
We got off on the Osborne Brothers. Let me come back to that for a moment. Rocky Top, 67, Christmas of 67. They played it, and it was written by Country Music Hall of Fame, Songwriter Hall of Fame members Boudleaux and Felice Bryant. When you talk about those guys, that couple right there, they were music in the day. I mean, I've read story after story after story of being over. If you got invited over to the Bryant's house, bring your guitar, and there was going to be a song written that night. They are responsible for having written something like 6,000 songs.
Wow!
Like they did Rocky Top. They did a lot of the stuff from the early Everly Brothers. Wake Up a Little Susie. Wake Up a Little. My mom loved that song. I mean, she loved to play that song. And then we found out while we were doing our research for this segment. Here's a song written by Boudleaux and Felice Bryant that you would have never imagined was written by them.
Never.
Love Hurts by Journey.
Nazareth.
Not Nazareth, I'm sorry. Now compare and contrast that with Rocky Top.
Yeah, that's two ends of the spectrum right there, isn't it? Wow. That just shows how talented they were, though.
No, they truly were. They were very talented. And I listen. I think what I love right now about what's happening in bluegrass music is there's a whole group of people out there who have taken their cues from going back to the greats of bluegrass music, and then the sort of the modern fathers of bluegrass music. When I think of my friend Ricky Skaggs. I think of Marty Stewart, who still plays a lot of bluegrass, and a lot of his music is influenced with bluegrass. And then you got this new guy Billy Strings out there who's playing, and Sierra Hull. Oh my gosh! If you ever get a chance to see Sierra Hull play the mandolin,
she's something.
Holy moly, is she good!
Yep.
I mean, and so the traditions have gone on, but there are people putting their own particular style on it. There are still people out there who are going back and listening to this, that, and the other. But I mean, understand that music that we hear today, it's like a lot of things. It's foundational. I mean, the music that we have today is based on the previous generation and the generation before. It's like building a brick wall. And when you talk about bluegrass music, and you talk about Bobby Osborne and Sonny Osborne and the Osborne brothers and what they meant to bluegrass music, you're talking about some of the basic foundation that you hear even today. The styles are still replicated. They are still widely admired, and they were on the stage for a very, very long time. I'm sad to hear of their passing, but boy, now the two brothers are reunited in heaven, and that'll be a great singing of Rocky Top at the pearly gates.
Mm-hmm.
While we're talking about the entertainment news, I've got a minute or two left here to talk about the big announcement today has to do with Wheel of Fortune. Oh! I mean, who of us? I don't think there's anybody in America who hasn't sat through a few episodes of Wheel of Fortune.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was always on. It was always comfortable. You could. It's one of the things you could walk into a room if it was on, and you could instantly start playing.
Yeah, you didn't need any context or any.
No, you didn't need any setup or anything. You immediately could play. And so Pat Sajak announced recently that he's going to leave. After 40-some seasons, this season that he's in right now will be his last. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. It seems like we got an announcement that was less than satisfying to me personally. The replacement for Pat Sajak will be Ryan Seacrest. Look, I don't know Ryan Seacrest. Okay. I've never met him. I've just always, I sort of look at him and I go, what's that all about? Well, I mean, what is the big deal about Ryan Seacrest? He shows up everywhere. Two cameras show up, there will Ryan Seacrest be as well.
I guess
so. I mean, this is almost, yeah. And look, he's just sort of, vanilla pudding to me. Yep. I look at him, I go, bland. I've never heard him do anything that I thought was, well, that was exceptional broadcasting. Well, that was a thoughtful comment. He's done talk shows. He's done all kinds of stuff. He's filled up more airtime than probably I'd ever do in a lifetime. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. He's Ryan Seacrest, and I don't get him. I don't understand why people are so enamored.
But Brian, he does that
Brian.
cool thing at the end of the broadcast where he goes, Seacrest out.
I know.
Well, that's impressive.
And that's another reason why I'm not all that impressed. But he is stepping in. It will be the replacement. I don't know. Can anybody really replace? What do you say when you replace a legend?
He's got big shoes to fill, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's just Wheel of Fortune, right?
Well, but it's not. It's not just that. It's an iconic American experience that has been in our homes with Pat Sajak and Vanna White for decades.
That's true.
Decades and decades and decades, and you knew what you were getting, and it was going to be reliable, and you had comfort that Pat Sajak was always going to be there in his affable way, and that Vanna would never, ever miss a letter turn. Good luck, Ryan Seacrest. 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Let me tell you about the Nashville Armory Ranges, 2 locations for your convenience. The Nashville Armory is at 4290 Kenilwood Drive in Nashville, 15,000 square feet, which combines retail, classrooms, and, of course, pistols and rifle-rated ranges. You can become proficient and then stay that way. The second location, the Franklin Range, 390 South Winds Drive. There you'll find 10 state-of-the-art shooting ranges equipped with automated target control and custom shooting stalls that provide a virtually private shooting experience. And the folks that work there, you can't say enough about them. They pride themselves on hiring folks with the expertise to advise experienced shooters, but they also have the patience to guide those who are new to the 2A world. You'll find no attitude. You'll find no judgment. You'll find no pressure. Gunsmithing back at the Nashville Range. You're buying your first gun or adding to the collection. You'll find a wide selection of new and pre-owned firearms, suppressors, optics, apparel, shooting accessories. It's a place where you go to buy, a place where you can learn to train, and when it's all over with, you'll be a pretty good shot. To learn more, go at armoryranges.com, armoryranges.com. Please let them know that your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things that we see from time to time, well, way too often, is this. Let's say that you go to a financial advisor and they say, hey, you need to set up an investment portfolio, and what we need to do is we need to have some of your money in stocks or mutual funds or ETFs or something like that, and we need to have something fixed or guaranteed in your investment portfolio that'll protect you against the market downturns. And quite often what they're talking about, they may not use this word, but often what they're talking about is putting your money into some sort of an annuity, like an indexed annuity or something like that, or a fixed annuity. And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, let's put your money in both of these, which sounds really good. And you should. And typically in an investment portfolio, you do want to have fixed investments and stocks as well in the portfolio to protect against inflation. But here's what happens when you manage a portfolio. Let me use a really, really simple example. Let's say I have a portfolio and I got stocks in there. Then I have my fixed income, my bonds in the portfolio as well. And let's say I have half my money in each. When stocks really do well, what we want to do is they're going to be overweighted in my portfolio. I own too much of them because they've done well compared to bonds. It was supposed to be half and half, and now maybe it's 70% stocks and 30% bonds, let's say, or something like that. So I want to sell some of this and buy some of that to bring it back to 50-50 and back and forth throughout time. Well, the problem is when you're managing a portfolio and rebalancing in that way, bringing it back to the original portfolio mix of half and half in my example, I'm going to have to incur a trading cost or a commission or a back-end surrender with the annuity. It doesn't make any sense to use that product in this particular manner. Why do people do it? Well, the reason quite often is this. Commissions are very high with these products. And a lot of firms, they actually require their advisors to recommend a certain amount of annuities for every person that walks in the door. Now, typically annuities are used for a different purpose. They were actually designed for a totally different purpose. And that was distribution toward the end of life. When somebody looks like they're going to run out of money, they're annuitized. Now, let me tell you something. One study showed there was only like 5% of annuities are ever used in that fashion. Most often they're sold as an accumulation vehicle like this, and they were never really designed for that purpose. If you want to learn more, call us for a free 15-minute phone call or go to our website, paulwinkler.com. The number 615-851-1950 or paulwinkler.com. We don't do anything on commission, and we like to rail against these types of things and help investors do what is in their best interest. paulwinkler.com.